why will the voices of young people who are actually driving the economy be excluded when we are making decisions that improves the economy?
And I think inclusion of youth voices leads to better designed policies.
We must stop looking at them from a social risk, political risk perspective, and start to look at them as assets.
Yeah, inspirational video there. Now, we said goodbye to Roxanne, but I'm able to welcome 3 new young youth leaders, I should describe you as. The first is Mert Kumra. You are the UN Youth Ambassador.
Yeah, I'm the UN Youth Representative. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Mert. The Sexual Reproductive Health and Rights Platform Youth Ambassador, Lisa de Pachter. Thank you, Lisa. And Lauren Boot, you are the chair of the youth think tank at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that think tank is called the West Wing, a very topical reference there. Thank you for joining us. Mert, let's start with you. On the website of the Dutch Youth Council, you're introduced as a connector, a tactician, and a storyteller. Can you tell us a bit about how do you use those characteristics and skills in your work as UN Youth Representative?
I think that it's very important to determine how you want to engage with young people. And in order to hear the young people, you need to be there for them to actually hear their stories as well. So when I say that I'm a connector, I want to connect those stories and connect those dots with policymakers or with other people with influence so that we can enhance the voices of these young people. And in terms of being a tactic, being someone who's a little more on the tactician exactly, you need to determine which steps you need to make in order to achieve your goals and pick the battles correctly.
Yeah, nicely said.
Yeah.
Lisa, also a question for you. I've done some digging too, and I noticed that your LinkedIn bio says that you aim to ensure that the lived realities of the world's young people are reflected in Dutch foreign policy. Can you share with us how you try to do that in your daily work?
Yeah, well, this has become a little bit of a slogan for me when I introduce my work. And what I do as youth ambassador is I make sure those lived realities are included, because at the ministry, we also feel we cannot make policies that don't align with young people if we don't actually have young people involved in developing those policies. And that's why, as a young person, I'm working at the ministry, because, you know, if there's only old people that are working there, they're not going to be able to find out what should be in those policies, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do, and that's what I try to make sure, that it's all just included there, and that there's someone structurally there as well to give shape to those policies.
Yes, thank you. Nicely said.
And Loudon, I feel like you're maybe afraid about what we've Googled about you, because we've clearly dug into the history.
We're quite the stalkers indeed.
But don't worry. My question for you is more about why did you decide to join the youth think tank at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I joined last year, and that's because I believe that the youth is really able to bring an extra out-of-the-box and innovative perspective to key issues that are so recurrent in international policy. And I believe that in the youth think tank, we work together with professionals, young professionals and students from all different kind of backgrounds. And they bring a very interesting perspective, because they don't really aspire a career in international policy, but they still want to make the world a better place.
Thank you, Lauren. Very interesting indeed. I'd like to bring in the minister at this point. Minister Kaag, today being a virtual youth forum, obviously is all about young people. But what do we actually mean when we use the term youth? Who are they? And most especially, where are they?
Well, I mean, fortunately, they're all over the world. Every country has its young people. I mean, if you want to go by definitions, of course, there's the UNESCO age barrier, I mean, around 24, 25. But I think we need to look more broadly on people into their 30s almost, because it's when you have an education, when you go to vocational school, when you try to establish a family, when you try to live your life independently away from your parents. Now, many countries in the world, of course, are characterized by the so-called youth bulge, a high number of young people, but often with the least options or choices in their life, how to live their lives, how to live their sexuality, how to dream and make it happen. So it's a broad grouping, but you have to think of all the examples. The young refugee that is trying to make a living, the mother in West Africa that has to work the land, but also really likes to raise her children. She might only be 19. So young people are across. At the same time, we know that many young people in many countries are forced to lead very difficult and challenging lives. And it's about them, I think in particular, that of course we want to make the investments, help them achieve their dreams as much as possible, the same way we allow and want young people in a country such as the Netherlands to achieve their dreams and take away the barriers, the obstacles. Just many people do not have the advantage points that many young people in the Netherlands have. So it's also, to me, about solidarity, that no matter where you are, who you are, where you're born, that you can strive to be whom you want to be, and really that we look at issues of inequality. Young people are faced with a tremendous burden of climate change, but also global inequality. And it's my generation, the so-called old people, I think Merte called them. Yeah, but I'm young at heart. Hey. So the so-called, the older people have to be the wiser ones and enable and create space and make way for younger people, particularly the ideas, the courage and the innovation.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much, Minister. And talking about solidarity and the experiences of youth globally, this is a good moment to share a video which has been compiled of the life experiences of young people elsewhere in the world. Let's run that clip.
Your life has a purpose and a meaning.
The youth is at the heart of any nation.
Young people can become leaders by advocating for what they believe in.
I believe that changing the world can be achieved by helping youth to dream and believe that they can achieve their dreams.
I'm trying to empower youth to take charge in leadership and do something in our community rather than just sitting there and waiting for things to happen.
My message is focus on education. Today we can use digital innovations and digital infrastructure to deliver the same quality and even better education to everyone, including refugees, including the vulnerable ones.
I would like myself and other youths to be given a seat at the table of policy making, to offer our own solutions, bring our ideas, and share our experiences.
Les décideurs politiques internationaux doivent nous aider dans l'élaboration d'une politique d'éducation adaptée à nos cultures et à nos valeurs et d'une éducation de qualité.
Because of all these challenges that are facing young people, especially right now, it's extra important that our governments keep consulting with us, that they keep asking us what's important to us, what we want to change, what we need right now and for the future.
People you met and places you went to will never be the same if you will not exist. You are the hero of your own.
Use your voice to make a difference.
Yes. Use your voice to make a difference. Very inspirational words from very inspirational young people. Mert, as a UN youth representative, seeing that video, what is the first thing that strikes you about it?
Well, it's amazing to see the diversity of young people who are involved with the same cause and the same goals. They all want to participate in creating a better future for all of us. And just like the minister before us has said, if we want to work together on the common future, we need to make sure that these young people can actually participate and join in on the table. So sometimes stepping aside and enhancing our voices can help to contribute to the common solution.
Thank you very much, Mert. And thank you very much, Lisa and Loudon. You two will be staying with us for the rest of this session. We'll be saying goodbye to Loudon shortly. But now I'd like to move on to the youth principles, because, of course, today is not a standalone event, everyone. It's part of an ongoing conversation. And to show the commitment that the minister has, that the Dutch government has, to ensuring that there is this ongoing conversation. A set of youth principles has been drafted. They will be officially, formally announced and released in our wrap-up session at the end of the day, but we do have a little sneak preview. Hajar, should we show them?
I think we should, yeah, let's do it.
The voice of youth has spoken. Let's run that clip.
Hello, my name is Riem.
My name is Mahmoud Salah.
This is Maram from Tunisia.
My name is John Yohannes from South Sudan.
My name is Sadi Ali Dawood. I'm from Somaliland.
Neshwa from Sudan.
My name is Kevin Lunzalu.
My name is Yamangsti.
My name is Taliban Adriana Hussein.
My name is Emeli Dofik Pegroende Sawadogo.
Ibrahim Assise, The Gambia.
I am Maria, Lebanon. I am one of 12 young researchers leading a peer-to-peer research project looking into resilience to COVID-19, education and the future of work, and youth voices. We are asking young people, how can we build back better? how they want to be educated, and how their voices can be strengthened and heard in society.
We designed the research questions, considered our target audiences, and chose our data collection tools, building and distributing an online survey, organizing focus group discussions, and running a multimedia submission process. But why is youth-led peer-to-peer research like this is so important? Because fundamentally, it's about shifting power. It's about rethinking who is deemed the expert. It's about a conversation between young people and listening to our lived experiences.
We are more likely to ask the right questions and ask them in the right way. We know how to make them relevant to young people's lives because as peers, often we understand each other. We generate better insights so decision makers can design better policy and programs, avoiding blind spots or spotting nuances that they might miss. We are very excited to share our findings and principles with you. So stay tuned and join us at the closing session. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you indeed. Now, joining our conversation now is someone who knows all too well what the challenges are when it comes to involving youth as meaningful participants in decisions affecting their lives. He knows that because he's one of the youngest ministers on the continent of Africa. He is the Minister for Youth and Sports in Chad. Mr. Rutuang, thank you for joining us. Welcome. I understand we may be having some audio problems. No, he's laughing away. I hope it's not because he heard my question and he thinks it's ridiculous. No, I think we'll go on. Perhaps I can ask Minister Kaag. Minister Kaag, how do you go about effectively weaving youth into the fabric of policy making?
Yeah, well, that's of course sometimes the multi-million-dollar question, but frankly speaking, we've just started. We've started the work, we've designed it, we've held consultations. I think one of the research questions and the principles is part of a product. And I think in every country where we work, where we have an active embassy team, the team from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has designed it in a way that is inclusive, that young people are involved from the start, and we've been able to rely on a lot of smart Dutch young people as well. We don't do this alone. It's fine for us to say, oh, we want to have a youth strategy, but if the main partner, the agent of change are young people, they have to be in the driving seat. I've appointed, to make it easier, also a young youth ambassador, Tijmen. He'll be floating around somewhere, I think, there virtually. He's also coalesced, and a lot of young people at the ministry have done this. And I must say, I'm really heartened and I'm super proud of the work done in COVID time by everyone across the globe to look at the issues of work, the changes, but also the opportunities in crisis. It's not just building back better. This is a catalytic point in our history, I believe, and we can seize the moment. And I'm so proud we are with you, thanks to young people, potentially even ahead of the curve. It's a long time coming, but everything we talk about at any age, it's about work, it's about safety, it's about health, it's about access, it's about rights. And young people can help shape this. So I think it's a fundamentally important role you can all play now. And the strategy is a way to capture it. It's nothing else. It needs to be unpegged for it to remain relevant, country specific. If you're a refugee or you're a migrant, you're documented or you're illegal, everybody has needs and rights.
Yeah, thank you very much, Minister. We may be able to join Mr. Rutuang, but before we do, we're going to hear a little bit more about another initiative at the Ministry, and that's the Youth Advisory Committee.
Yes.
And to introduce that, we've got another short video. Let's run that.
This is not the time to give up.
Il faut avoir des visions lointaines parce qu'on doit changer les choses.
التغيير الأساسي لازم يكون في منظومة المجتمع وجزئية تنشئة الشباب والجيل الجديد.
Lauren and Mert, maybe I can ask you, why do you think this is a good development? Why are you partnering with the ministry on this Youth Advisory Committee?
Well, I think that in order to make sure that you hear the topics that directly affect and directly concern young people, you should make sure that these voices can be heard on the levels where the decision making is finally being made. Mm-hmm. So an advisory committee such as is proposed is an excellent example of making sure that young people directly join in on the conversation and also join in conclusion and in solution making as well.
Okay. Yeah, through the whole process.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you mentioned the whole process. Lauren, maybe to ask you, as the chair of the ministry's youth think tank, what do you hope will happen in the first phase of the Youth Advisory Committee?
Yeah, I'm actually super excited about this committee because I feel like we're making such big steps with youth participation, and this is very important in making it more solid. So now it's often a question, are we going to involve the youth in this decision or that decision? And now it's not going to be a question anymore. We'll be involving the youth. It will be a solid phase in making policy. And I think that's very important. And I hope that will help happen in the first steps of this committee. Cool. Constant consultation.
Yeah. Is there something you can perhaps highlight specifically as, right, this is the key to this Youth Advisory Committee being successful?
Well, I believe that one of the most important aspects to this is the terms of structurality, making sure that it's not a temporarily one-time thing, but it keeps reoccurring and it becomes part of the fabric of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Mm-hmm. And if that is enabled, which is also proposed...
How do you do that, though?
I mean, making sure that these young people can actually come in at any given point when they think that it's important to hear their voices.
So just open the door randomly when there's another meeting and say, hey. Well, how do you do that?
Well, at least lowering the threshold to participate and to engage with them. That's the most important aspect.
Okay, cool. So you don't want them to be dependent on goodwill to be given an invitation.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. On that note, I want to ask you another question, Minister Kaag. Obviously, when we speak about young people, it's not a homogeneous group. There are so many different young peoples in all layers of society. How does the ministry try to reach all of those young people from all different segments?
Well, I think that's one of our core objectives in a way. If you look at in development aid, the purpose is to assist the most vulnerable, women, girls, young people at a threshold in often very fragile situations, countries in crisis, war, high levels of poverty. So they're our main target group, and they benefit and they feel strengthened and supported by their counterparts, by their peers in a country such as the Netherlands, who are as keen, I'm always happy to see, and eager to learn, to know, to support. We reinforce each other. Just because we are a wealthier country doesn't always mean we appreciate life more. The stages and challenges of life, growing up, building your life independently are different. But the vantage point of equality and partnership is an important one. That's why this council, the Youth Advisory Committee, is so important to me as well. It's a mirror, it's a sounding board, but it's also directive in terms of the priorities. We need to know, are we doing the right things? Or are we just thinking them up from The Hague and we've checked with a few of our embassies and we think it's okay? No, we need to be holding ourselves to the highest standard in terms of ability to deliver, but also really deliver on a promise of an inclusive life for as many people as possible. And we have to start with young people.
Thank you, Minister. And I'm pleased to say I have some breaking news, people. The internet gods are with us. We have Mr. Rutuang. He is busy with his BlackBerry, but he has audio, I'm told.
Yes, he can hear you.
These young ministers, always online, always online. Minister, tell us, how do you in Chad go about weaving youth into the fabric of your policy-making decisions?
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like firstly to congratulate you for this fantastic event and congratulate the Dutch ministry for that opportunity given to the young people to make their voice heard. In Chad, we are one of the youngest country, so which the population is mostly young, so around 18 to 25 years old. So, but years ago, we were mainly governed by old people taking decision on our behalf and like drawing the country the way they like. But lately, young people are trying to make their voice heard in so different way. It's not an easy exercise, but lately we try to find a way to make every decision or any action that has been taken to consider young people's voice. I am one of the activists. So 6 years ago, I was like trying to make my voice heard in entrepreneurship field. So it wasn't an easy step because people don't understand you, people don't believe in your young age because they think that young people are always talking nonsense.
How do you make them listen to you, Mr. Rutuang? How do you make them realize that you are not talking nonsense?
Action is the best way to make them listen to you.
Clear.
I used to talk to people or to say to people that if people doesn't want to invite you on their table, you create your table and they will join you. Make sure that your table contains the best ingredient in the world so that they cannot ignore your table. That's the best way of doing people, making people believe in your action. So when you do concrete action, well precise, with great indicators, they don't have any other choice but to deal with you, to make sure that your voice is heard, your opinion is well concerned.
Wonderful.
So,
thank you very much. I think that's a great note to end on, Mr. Rutuang. Actions speak louder than words, and we've already heard many actions that are happening here today, the Youth Advisory Committee, the Youth Principals. So thank you very much indeed for your contribution. And thank you to all of our guests during this session. And you'll be pleased to hear that this is just the beginning. We have a whole afternoon, don't we, Hajar?
Yes, indeed. This is just the beginning, everyone, because now we are going into the deep dive for today's themes. There are 4 channels waiting for you with very interesting sessions that you can follow. Ikenna, what sessions do we have?
Well, we have all the sessions here in Studio Orange, and here we'll be talking about all sorts of interactive sessions on mental health, on work, on COVID-19, including an intergenerational dialogue organized by Generation Unlimited.
Very interesting. You can also go to Studio Blue, where we'll talk more about education, opportunities provided by digitalization, inclusion, and 21st century skills.
Yeah, and Studio Purple, lots of snappy interactive sessions, because that's also what today is about. It's about interacting, it's not just one-way traffic.
Yes, and finally we have Studio Pink. Studio Pink is all about young people in the lead. You can see young innovators, young entrepreneurs, and they want to hear from you as well. So make sure to share your experiences and tell them what you think.
Yeah. That interaction is key. Yeah, tell us, give us your questions. Also, connect with one another. Just visit the chat rooms, which you can visit online, and use this also as an opportunity to network. Why not? Minister, is there a particular session you are looking forward to? Apart from Studio Orange,
I have a scripted answer, but actually, this conference and all the workshops and themes feel like my children, so I'm not going to make any choice. I'm going to try to watch as many as possible and caress all of them.
Okay.
Equally important.
Nice.
It is a non-committal but a very good answer, I think, from the minister.
Indeed.
Yeah, they're all worthwhile.
Yeah, truly.
Anything you're specifically looking forward to, Hajar?
Oh, difficult question again. You know, I think I'll go for the Trump approach. There was this one time where they asked him what part of the Bible was his favorite bit, and then very convincingly he said, all of it. It's simply all too good to choose any one thing. So the cliche answer for me as well, non-committal, Ikenna.
Yeah, but you guys are right. It's impossible to choose because we have so much good content on the way, and I know that you're going to enjoy it. But right now we are taking a little break for a cultural keynote, and that is a DJ session from the wonderful DJ Campire in Uganda. Enjoy.
Now I like dollars, I like diamonds, I like stunning, I like shining, I like $1,000,000 deals. Here's my pen, bitch, I'm signing. I like those Balenciagas, the ones that look like stats. I like going to the jeweler, I put rocks all in my watch.
Hey, I'm Kampire. You are at the 2020 Virtual Youth at Heart Conference. Thank you for coming. I hope you have a wonderful conference.
Jump in the coupe, pick up on top of the
Hello everyone, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story with you. I would like to start with an advertisement for a special group of people. The more you trust them, the more they will give you in return. The more you invest in them, the greater the success. The people I'm advertising for want nothing but an opportunity and exceed your expectations. I'm talking about youth. Young, talented men and women. We just need an opportunity to prove ourselves to the world. We know we can do it. Grow, build, write, decide, draw, reconstruct, participate. An opportunity is the root of a tree from which all the fruits stem from. Youth should not be marginalized, instead being a force of creativity and perseverance. Youth should grow into a much more productive factor in our communities. They just need the chance to make the first step, just like I did. My name is Pam. I am 23. I grew up and live in Erbil, in the Kurdistan region in Iraq. Some of you might know how unstable and volatile this part of the world can be. Being young and a woman are two formidable challenges where I live. However, I always had dreams, many dreams. At 16, I started to work, realizing I need to develop my interpersonal and professional skills in order to be successful. My dad told me not to work. He was afraid I would not be successful at my study engineering. I insisted. Eventually, I graduated top of the class. And my dad apologized on the day of graduation for not trusting me. Tell your sister to follow your example, he told me. Wherever I worked, I was the youngest of the organization. Mostly people would tell me that I had not enough experience for the job, that I was too young to carry responsibility still. I would convince them and make sure never to waste an opportunity. Then I encountered Spark, an international NGO which supports young people in fragile regions. I joined their youth camping workforce and developed a public awareness campaign to support Kurdish youth to raise their voice peacefully. I remember being asked to be the host of an international youth conference in Erbil. There I was in front of 215 high-level attendees. This was the stepping stone to my next movie. Now, at 23, I'm a television correspondent, the youngest again at Rudao, a major TV news broadcaster in KRI. A dream come true. During my interview, they told me my CV did not match my age. They wondered if I could work under high pressure. I assured them I would not disappoint them. After 1 year, they trusted me with a big assignment to report on China during a 21-day journey. With a professional team, we traveled to China to cover the history and China's major industries. I couldn't be more excited. I realized how lucky I was. To the young people, I would like to say, opportunities need driven people. Realize that nothing comes without hard work and dedication, even pain. If you are not determined to make our dreams come true, we can't expect much from others. Instead of wasting our time complaining about our elders, we must use the time we have to think, create, innovate, and learn from our mistakes. Start our own initiatives, programs, and businesses. I do understand our challenges as I have faced many of them myself. Don't give up. Show the people around you that they are wrong. Show them what you have to offer. I also tell the senior people, the politicians, businessmen, and those who own businesses, the more you mobilize young people around you, the better it will be. Because I can reassure you, still being young myself, that young people are passionate, eager to learn, ready to work hard and be successful. I wish you all success and blessings. Make the impossible possible.
ما بعرف في شيء بدنا نقوله.
مرحبا كيفكم هيك؟
مرحبا. شو معقول طالب جامعي بعده ما تخرج او تخرج جديد انه يكون عم يكتب بالسي في تبعه؟
التدريب اللي حصلت عليه خلاني اعبي السي في بخبرات عمليه كتير.
قبل ما بلش فترة التدريب كانت السي في تبعي هالقد، وبعد ما بلشت فترة التدريب صارت هالقد.
التدريب بيساعد على زيادة فرص العمل وتقليل البطالة.
التدريب أخذني من بيروت للنبطية.
التدريب بيساعد إنه نفوت على سوق العمل بشكل أكثر وننظم وقتنا بشكل أفضل.
الهدف من التدريب إنه الشركة اللي عم بتوظف تستفيد، والمتدرب هيدي فرصة كتير مهمة له تيثبت هو شو بيعرف وشو قادر يعطي، بس كمان حتى يتعلم.
أول يوم فلت فيه على التدريب حسيت حالي شوي غريبة، بس تاني يوم حسيت حالي جزء منهم.
بعد فترة الدراسة وإنه الواحد يتخرج من الجامعة، من الضروري إنه يبلش فترة التدريب لحتى يتعلم أكثر على التولز ويتعلم على الأرض.
الجامعة بس بتكون عم تعطيك المعلومات بس ما بتفوتك على سوق العمل.
التدريب كتير خلاني أوثق بقدراتي العملية والمهنية.
تعلمت بالتدريب كيف عن جد اشتغل تحت ضغط وكون جزء من فريق.
الشركات يلي استضافتنا وعم نعمل فترة التدريب عندها كتير استفادت من نشاطاتنا وكتير استفادت من أفكارنا الجديدة.
أبداً ما توقعت إنهم يكونوا عم يعاملوني كموظف عنده واجبات وله حقوق.
بحسب الإحصائيات لما بتخلص فترة التدريب بتزيد نسبة حصولك على فرصة عمل 50%.
56% من الطلاب يلي حصلوا على فرص تدريب صحت لهم فرص تدريب جديدة وعم يبحثوا عن وظائف جديدة هلا بظل أزمة كورونا.
خبرتك بالتدريب هي العامل المؤثر رقم 1 بحصولك على عمل.
4 من 5 متدربين قالوا إنه خبرتهم المهنية وأخلاقهم المهنية زادت بعد التدريب.
إنه لما بتروحوا على فترة التدريب فرصة حصولكم على 15% أكثر من المعاش بتكون أكيدة.
الطلاب يلي قدروا يحصلوا على تدريب مدفوع زادت فرصهم بنسبة 34% للحصول على عمل بعد التخرج.
متطلبات سوق العمل عم ترتفع والشباب صاروا قادرين وجاهزين إنه يغطوا هاي المتطلبات.
هيدا بدل إنه كتير في طلب على فرص العمل والشباب والصبايا بيستحقوا.
الشباب والصبايا بيستحقوا فرص التدريب هاي اللي عم تتقدم لهم.
والمتدرب هيدي فرصة كتير مهمة له تيثبت هو شو بيعرف وشو قادر يعطي، بس كمان حتى يتعلم كيف بيقدر يكون عم بيشتغل بشركة ضمن فريق عمل، بيجي على الوقت، بيلتزم بالإجراءات، وهيدا شيء كتير مهم وهيدا الشيء اللي لاحظناه.
كتير استفدت من السوبرفايزر المسؤول عني بالتدريب وعطاني كتير صراحة خبرة عملية وإدارية
هاي فرص التدريب عطتني فرصة لأني أحصل على وظيفة بسبب العلاقات اللي كونتها عن طريق هاي الفرصة.
كان شيء جديد كتير إنه أنا ألبس بدلة وأروح فيها على الشغل كأني موظف أنا عادي وعم يعاملوني كموظف ومش كمتدرب.
Welcome back, everybody, to our session on diversity and inclusion. And these are themes that are close to my own heart, especially because I recently made a film about them for a Dutch broadcaster. The film was entitled The Post-Racist Planet. And in it, I and my fellow directors tried to sketch out a vision of a future in which there is diversity and there is inclusion. A future in which the best ideas come from everyone, regardless of what their background is. Because when we get rid of racism, we start listening to the people who already have the solutions, but people who are not currently getting the investment they deserve, are not currently valued, and are not being listened to. In this session, we'll be talking with a representative of Voice, which is an organization set up by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to fight against stigmatization and to fight for diversity and inclusion. Before I introduce our speakers, I'm going to run a short video from one of the organizations that is supported by Voice.
We are the crazy ones. We are the crazy ones. The ones who dare to dream, write, sing. We are the believers. Chasing after our dreams, dancers. We are mad. If insanity means we get to achieve, put us in an accident while chasing our dreams, we are mad. Making a difference. Differently indifferent to the naysayers. Different to every rule that says we cannot be. Let the world rest under our canopy of change. There is unity in our diversity. Truth in our creativity. We represent reality. Rawness and authenticity. We bring life to this city.
Now, I enjoyed watching that video, and soon we're going to hear more about it from my first guest, and that is Thomas Chang Pico from Voice. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. The intention was for us to have two additional guests at this session. Aminata Traore, an activist fighting stigma and violence against albinism. She was supposed to be joining us from Bamako live, but we're having some connection problems. They may be resolved. We'll have to wait and see. And also the director of the Social Development Department at the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Pascal Grotenhuis. Hopefully she'll be also joining us shortly. But I can start straight away with you, Thomas, partly because there's also no one else here.
Big stage for all of us, only two of us, yeah.
Indeed. But it was an uplifting video from the two young women from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can tell us, tell us a bit more about the message that they just shared.
Well, they speak a lot about using your voice in creative ways to express, dissent or willingness to act for change. So Pelemo and Deborah work for and are part of an organization called Street Project Foundation Nigeria. And they're basically doing a lot of campaigning to include young people in policymaking in Nigeria. I think.
And how important is it to use your voice in creative ways? You mentioned, these two young women are based in Nigeria. We've seen online an incredibly effective End SARS campaign, for instance, which is going on in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Today, even today, there are thousands marching, youth marches calling for the end to SARS. Is it important to always be innovative and creative in order for your campaigning to work?
Yeah, I guess so. It requires a lot of combination of different ways of influencing, of course, and trying to, get your message across. But I think what's really interesting about young people is that, it's always a step ahead of the game, and particularly using social media these days became a game changer, I would say. You see it everywhere. I don't know if you saw it a couple months ago in Latin America, this sort of interpretative dance with music that was developed by some Argentinian feminist activists.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see that.
It went out all over, the internet.
Yeah.
They were calling the state an oppressor and a violator, and it was sort of like this really nice poem in Spanish, but it became a global phenomenon. And you see, for example, someone that's really, I mean, I look up to her is Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez in the US, that she's also finding ways to connect with more people and young people particularly by going into social media. She's very active on Twitter. She goes on Twitch and she does like video game live streaming and connects with an audience that usually, it's unreachable, or people do not find it easy to connect with these groups of people.
But I feel like it's not just a question of getting on TikTok or getting on Twitch. Like people it has to be an authentic message. And the campaign you just described in Latin America and the one going on in Nigeria, End SARS, these are not even donor-driven campaigns. These are just grassroots, passionate young Nigerians and Latin Americans fed up with certain situations and fighting for them. But what, as Voice, what do you bring? How can you help support these movements? That's what they are.
Okay, let me sort of like try to explain a bit about Voice. So Voice is a program that was established by the Dutch government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in 2016. And basically it's a grant-making facility with a mandate to sort of promote diversity and inclusion in Africa and Asia particularly. The program was built around the core principles, nothing about us without us, and leave no one behind. So basically, we give out grants to any type of civil society organization on the ground. And the idea, the logic behind the program is to reach to groups and groups of people that are particularly hard to reach by common development and cooperation financing streams. So we reach out to organizations that are normally, for example, not registered or informal groups.
And what sorts of organizations are you looking for then? If you're a group of young people and you want to fight for diversity and inclusion, what would you be looking out for?
Well, we particularly look for organizations that we call self-led. That means that, for example, in the case of Aminata, unfortunately couldn't join us. It's an organization, and she herself fight for the rights of people with albinism. And so we look for organizations that are led and managed by these groups themselves, right? So in the case of Aminata, she lives with albinism herself, and she wants to see she wants to change the world in the way she sees it, with her own voice and with her own with her own group. So this is the type of organizations that we really try to reach out to and provide financial support and, not only through grants, but experience and exchange. We believe a lot in linking and learning and intersectionality. So we try to create spaces where different groups because of their individual or their specific forms of discrimination that they face, they can connect with others that are also having, problems to be included. And sort of like find ways to advocate for each other and to support each other and to create solidarity among different groups of people.
And often, one of the criticisms of young people, I suppose, is that, they're too apathetic. But I think we've already mentioned a lot of examples showing that is not the case. And another criticism is that they're too angry. But when it comes to anger, what are the best ways of channeling that anger to create a kind of sustainable and effective change?
Well, of course, anger is a defense mechanism to a certain point. Of course, anger sometimes leads to violence, and violence is, of course, not the answer. But I think anger, in particularly coming from young people, it sort of like ignites a fire within to drive, to push for change, and to really, push for massive mobilizations, like you just mentioned in Nigeria. We can cite thousands of examples. In Thailand, they're fighting for democracy right now. In Poland, you see young women, in particularly, fighting for the right to abortion. So I guess that anger is what motivates people to go out to the street and, show their dissent or to try to fight for change. But I guess the secret is to turn anger into positive action. And I think what we just saw in the video with the Street Project Foundation is that they're using spoken word and poetry and different ways of expressing yourself to sort of like channelize that anger and to turn it into, like a more a nice message, let's say.
Sure. And let's zoom in on the kind of effects of stigmatization. When you have encountered it personally, when you've been a victim of exclusion, for instance, or stigmatization, and I'm saying that assuming that you have, I don't know if that's the case, but I know I certainly have. What are your coping mechanisms?
Whoa, that's a big question. I guess, I mean, it's always hard to find that strength within yourself, that resilience to keep on moving. But I think that looking into like how small steps lead to change helps, you know, because I mean, when you're an activist and you're very ambitious, sometimes can be a bit tiring, you know, you feel like Sisyphus pushing the stone, you know, but I think focusing on small steps helps. And yeah, I think, I guess always feeling, I mean, particularly I am gay, so coming out of the closet and experiencing resistance to, you know, the person or the most authentic form of myself, let's say, brought a lot of resistance and people that, you know, perhaps were not so comfortable with it. And I guess the strength for me was to remain grateful and cherish those connections within my environment that supported me and wanted to see me grow up and blossom, right? Yeah. So I think that's also a good way to cope with these sort of forms of exclusion.
Yeah, no, beautifully spoken. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to say in the meantime, we have Pascal Grotenhuis, director. Thank you very much for joining us, Pascal. Pascal, you are, of course, Thomas's boss, so you should be proud of him. He's just spoken beautifully. Thank you very much. Pascal, we were talking a little bit about supporting, how Voice supports grassroots organizations. What, as someone who is higher up the chain than Pascal, let's say, what do you look for in youth-led organizations? What make youth organizations to you feel like, okay, those are the people I want to support?
I think leading by example is very important. I think youth organizations should involve youth in the first place and have them set the agenda and set the priorities. And I think that's why I'm very pleased to be working with Voice and many other organizations today and in the future, in the past as well. Because I think together we can amplify the voices and make them heard and have sustainable policies. Because if you don't really involve young people in your policies, then how sustainable are they going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And are there any transformative stories or any particularly impactful organizations that you supported which come to mind? That's for you or Thomas. Moments like, when was the last time that you were doing your job and you saw an organization, you thought, yes, that's why I do this?
Well, my previous job, I was the ambassador in Mozambique, and we worked together with the LGBTI groups, and also with albino groups, and also with peer education. Because I think as inspirational as a speaker is, you need role models, you need stories, you need to lead by example.
Yeah, certainly. I know in the context of the Post-Racist Planet film that we made, you cannot overstate enough the importance of positive role models when it comes to minority groups. Don't you think, Thomas?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one example that I can cite is an organization that was just in the Studio Pink presentation that Voice organized as well. Mm-hmm. It's an organization called INAND. It stands for Initiative Against Discrimination. Mm-hmm. And it's also an organization led and formed by LGBT groups in Kenya. And I love their work. I mean, I'm a huge fan of what they do. They come up with this project to influence or sort of like convince or, transform the souls and hearts of motorcycle riders in Kenya. That usually, as let's say a lesbian young person goes to the street, usually they're being targeted, of attacks, etc. And usually they found out that a lot of these attacks come from, or a lot of these offenses come from these writers, right? And they found a way to sort of like start engaging with them and turn them from offenders to defenders. And try to work with them slowly but surely, involving more and more of these sort of, workers.
Yeah. Make them ambassadors for change as well.
Precisely.
Yeah, beautiful. Unfortunately, we've lost Pascal. The connection has dropped, which puts more emphasis on this need to... We've got another session devoted to bridging the digital divide. I think we need to do that closer to home, not just internationally. But listen, for all of our active social media users, obviously hashtags are very popular when it comes to campaigning now. And in one of the other sessions, participants were asked to come up with their own hashtags to refer to explain their spiritual state of mind. We have I'm not a charity case was one of them. Live your most authentic life. Be the change you want to see. Disability is not inability. Which hashtag most describes your energy at the moment, do you think, Thomas?
My energy at the moment, I guess I will use the hashtag #NowUs. It's a funny play of words that we came up with in Voice to sort of create an acronym from the phrase "Nothing about us without us." So it shows that sort of like urgency. So I like it now. Us. I feel that's how I feel at the moment.
Yeah. That's very effective. I don't know. What would my hashtag be? Oh, Lord. I can't think of it. Hashtag definitely not old. How about that? Is that any good? Oh, no. Talking far too much about that theme. Pascal, you're back with us. Just in time.
Yeah, well, I feel definitely old now.
Not at all. Come on.
What would your hashtag be? What sums up your spirit or mood at the moment?
Well, I think be the change you want to see.
Yeah.
I think leading from example, I think I'm very proud that the Dutch government is taking a very good step on inclusivity and diversity and really listening to the young people. And I think if we do that, then others will follow. I truly believe that we can only change ourselves. And if we set the right example, then others will follow because they will see it's effective.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, we're going to end this session. Thank you very much, both of you, for your contributions. Very grateful. And we're going to move on with our next session. And in that session, I'm going to be reunited with my co-host, Hadja Yarkoubi. I haven't seen her for at least 20 minutes. So I'm looking forward to that. And on that session, during that session, we'll be discussing another hugely important topic, and that is mental health and psychosocial support. So I'd like to say thank you to you both for joining us.
Thanks to you.
Right. I don't know. I'm just going to ask the producers. Are we going to continue straight away with MHPSS? Okay. We're just going to conclude this session first of all, and in a few minutes we'll start the session on MHPSS. Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome back, everybody, for the session on MHPSS, Mental Health and Psychosocial Support. And I'm pleased to say that my co-host Hajar Yacoubi is back. Welcome back, Hajar.
Welcome, Ikena. Nice to be here again.
So, tell us, what can we expect in this session, Hajar?
Yeah, in this session it will be really interesting because we'll be hearing from policymakers, but also and especially from youth advocates. And they will talk more about the critical role that mental health and psychosocial support plays in contexts of education, but also livelihoods that are impacted by, for instance, the current COVID-19 pandemic or migration or climate change.
Yeah.
It's very interesting discussions.
Absolutely. And in terms of our guests, we have our more senior representatives, let's put it that way. The Dutch Minister for Foreign Trade and Development Cooperation, of course, Minister Kaag is going to be joining us. The head of the National Mental Health Program for the Ministry of Public Health in Lebanon, Rabi El Chamai. Rabi, thank you for joining us. And the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, Jayathma Wickramanayaka, will also be joining us. Thank you, Jayathma.
Yes. And our youth advocates panelists, of course, we also have them here. First of all, we have Rasha El Hussein. Rasha is 18 years old and was born in Damascus, Syria. Due to her mother's political activism, she and her family fled to the Netherlands when Rasha was still 11. And as I understand it correctly, you just came straight out of an exam.
Yes,
that's
I
right.
did.
No way.
Yes.
How did you do?
Well,
how do you think you did?
I don't think that I did that well, honestly.
Oh, no.
But let's hope for the best.
Yeah, let's just hope for the best.
There
and
we go.
yeah, thanks for being here then, especially Rasha. We also have David Carorero. David is a global refugee, mental health advocate, and founder of Burundian Youth for a Brighter Future. David is also the recipient of the 2020 World Dignity Project Mental Health Champion Award in the Lived Experience category. And then we also have Josiah. Unfortunately, I think there are still some technical issues with Josiah, but hopefully he'll be joining us later for the sessions.
Indeed. Minister, I know that MHPSS is a topic that is close to your own heart. I've witnessed that firsthand at the Mind the Mind Now conference, which you initiated last year. And that was, of course, the first MHPSS conference in the context of crisis situations. Perhaps you can best tell us why is this a topic that you care so much about?
I think it's about our humanity. We can feed people, we can allow children to go to school, we can raise them, but if we don't nurture the soul, particularly in times of trauma, crisis, depression, then we actually do half a job. So it's been with me since childhood, perhaps, in my own family settings, but ever since I've been working within the UN in crisis settings, I've seen that what we do is okay at best, but if we do not tend to dealing with mental trauma and depression, we do not allow people to pick up the pieces of their lives. So it's not, a missed opportunity is too small a word. It's actually a duty of proper care and support, and therefore I want to invest big time, make it a political issue, which we've successfully done so, and we even demonstrate it to be an investment case. You can't rebuild societies, you can't go forward if your mental baggage, your mental trauma is your baggage.
Yeah. I recall, actually, last year you emphasizing this idea of nurturing the soul. It's not a term you hear many politicians talking about.
Yeah.
I know, but that's my style.
Now, very clear. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Minister.
I see that Josiah has also joined us.
Okay.
So, Josiah, I'll do a short introduction for you. Thanks for being here. We're very glad to have you. So, last but not least, of course, one of our final youth advocates for this session is Josiah Tuala Mali'i. Josiah is a 25-year-old Afakasi Samoan New Zealander who lives in Christchurch and who advocates for Pacific peoples and young people's voices in mental health and well-being discussions. And if I understand it correctly, Josiah, you are going to help us officially open this session with an indigenous greeting in Samoan, right? Yes. Okay, well, I think we're all thrilled to hear it, so...
Fantastic. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No worries, no worries.
Ia whatamanawea le atua I le nei taimi. So ina e tātou talalei I le mea moni matangowhia ma le angalelei. Amen. May this time be blessed. May we speak truth, beauty and goodness. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Isai. And to make a bridge to our last session on diversity and inclusion, I read in the newspaper this morning that the new foreign minister in New Zealand is someone from the native indigenous community, Maori community. So that's a fantastic step. That's great.
First person ever and first woman in that role ever. It's amazing.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, thank you very much, both of you. Rasha, I'd like to start with you. Your story is very inspiring, and I'm sure you did great in that exam. Don't worry about it. But perhaps you can explain what education has obviously played a crucial role in your ability to integrate into a new society. What role has mental health and your well-being in relation to education played?
Honestly, I think that when I came to the Netherlands, I had this cloud floating over my head. It gave me the feeling that I won't survive the next day, and even if I survive it, what's the point of doing anything? Because something like what happened back in Syria could happen again here. And so dealing with that trauma basically drove me to become unmotivated and believe that even if I do my best and I do everything I can and study, I'm going to lose it all again. So after receiving EMDR, so hypnotherapy, trauma processing, I made peace with myself, and I realized that if I don't put one more step in life to reach that peace within myself and become a better person and study further, I won't get anywhere in life, and I need to proceed further, because otherwise I won't be the change the world needs. So what happened in Syria doesn't happen again.
Wow.
But how did you, I mean, it's a fantastic story, but where does that motivation come from?
Yeah, I think that I had a lot of dreams as a kid. I dreamed of being a lawyer, I dreamed of being an artist. All these things went away as we came here, but what I saw was that people outside were living their lives. My friends, when I just came here, my Dutch friends were studying and going outside and playing, and I couldn't do that because I had this negative vision on life. And so I think that gave me the feeling that I could have a more positive life if I tried to make it more positive. And my parents were so involved with trying to help us go through that trauma and get over it, basically. So through that, I got into MHPSS, and through that, I ended up going out of that negative bubble and coming back into that positive bubble again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you very much. Very inspirational. David, to ask you the next question. You're originally from Burundi, now living in Denmark. On this same topic, can you give us a better understanding of how important mental health and well-being is for asylum seekers and migrants?
Yes, thank you. Mental health programs are really critical for anyone experiencing significant change in their life. But mental health in emergencies are under-recognized, but the financial and the social implication in regard to the chronic cost of mental health programs are very huge. Refugee arrives in camps, either suffering from mental health issues. Before the emergency, for example, suffering from PTSD due to traumatizing experience in the war zone. But also it's something that may happen on their way to new countries. For example, there are some who see their other refugees drowning in the Mediterranean Sea, and so it's really important to have those kind of programs in order to help refugees to recover from what they experienced.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, David. And listen, this is clearly a subject that you are also very passionate about. You have a politician here who is equally passionate and has a lot of decision-making capability. Perhaps there's a question you would like to ask Minister Kaag.
Yes. Thank you, Minister Kaag. And I'm really happy to be with us. And that's what I was advocating for many times in order to be seated on the same table with decision makers, local leaders like you. So my question is, what can you change as a global leader to ensure our mental health and psychosocial well-being is supported and protected for us to be successful in our education, find meaningful jobs, and contribute to our host society? And how can you involve us, young people, more in making those decisions, as there is nothing for us without us? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. If I understood your question correctly, because of I'm also working from home, so I don't have the best internet connection, I think. But what we can do at the political level globally, I think what we need to do is to pursue what we've initiated as the Netherlands last year, to build a global movement, to ask governments to make the commitments in their countries with partner organizations to make MHPSS, access to mental health care and support, integral part of any response, any planning. It needs to become normal. It needs to be costed, so it needs to be budgeted for. There needs to be an investment in capacity, but everything can also be done low level. So we need peer-to-peer training, access to modern tools. And fortunately, the conference last year has built that platform. We have the commitment. We are forging ahead trying to find funding for it. And with the Red Cross, Red Crescent, but also UNICEF, WHO, many other partners, we're also building the criteria. So I can't just get up and go in my street and say, oh, well, I'm running this MHPSS program. There are standards. The beneficiaries, the clients, the people we care for, whom we want to support, are entitled to optimal care, even if the conditions are very difficult. And I think within education, it needs to become a mainstay as well. Teachers, healthcare providers can do a lot. They do not all need to be professionally trained. So we have a positive army of people willing to work and really work it out at community level. That's really where the essence of healing starts as well, within culture, within language, within habits.
Yes.
There's a lot, and Corona is teaching us a lot.
Thank you, Minister. Indeed, I think it's really important to mention that community level and really get to like the smallest veins of society to do that. Obviously, we have a lot of brilliant, fantastic, and super talented youth advocates present with us here at this panel. So, Minister, is there any question you would like to ask them?
Yeah, that's a tough one. But what is the one area where you feel so far any of the discussions have sort of been missing? Is it the way we communicate with young people on their mental well-being? It's very hard for the older generation, for parents, if their child is facing difficulties, as Rasha has also highlighted. It's not always easy for parents to reach. Sometimes the ones closest to you are least empowered or least able to help you. They want your well-being so much, but they're struggling sometimes as much as you are. So how can families and groups of friends also help each other in this healing process?
Yeah, good question.
From a young person's perspective.
Yeah. Josiah or Russia? I think that when we, for example, for me, when I just came to the Netherlands, it would have been nicer for me if I had someone from, for example, from the asylum ask me, hey, do you need help? How are you doing? When it came to my traumatic experiences. But I think that globally, there needs to be more open forum for all youth around the world to be able to reach out to someone and tell them, hey, I'm not doing okay. I need help with something. And I think that within the Netherlands, maybe that's developing more and more. But globally, there has to be a certain level that's the same everywhere for us to reach
this stability that we lack around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much for that, Rasha. David, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes. I think it's really important for global leaders to give us the opportunity to share what we really want with our life. As I said before, there's nothing for us without us. And we have global leaders have to know that we are part of the solution. We have to participate in our own healing. That means that global leaders should make sure there is an international solidarity on that. Also, make sure that education for mental health and psychosocial support are something that is present in all refugees camps and asylum centers. Another thing is that I think the narrative on, for example, children living in refugee camp should be changed. The fact is that we focus more on policies, on rules, but they never focus on
people.
The right narrative. They focus on. We never focus on the definition of a child. A child is defined as minor, where they have fewer rights and less responsibilities. When I came here to Denmark, I saw that many young people, children, are not given the right to go to schools, for example. But there is the Article 13 of the United Nations 1966, a Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, recognize education to everyone, including children living in refugees camp. So I think the system and societies treat them like refugees before treating them like children.
Yes,
so
thank you very much. I think that's...
leaders.
David, I think that's a very powerful point that you make, this need to change the narrative, and we'll pick up on that shortly. Also, this term you used, we have to participate in our own healing. I saw Rabbi nodding when you said that, so I'd like to pick that up with Rabbi shortly. Before we do that, though, let's take a look at a video sent in from Marwa Hussein, and she's talking about MHPSS education and livelihoods during specifically the COVID-19 pandemic.
مرحبا، أنا مروة من لبنان، عمري 18 سنة. رح كون اليوم عم بحكي عن الأسباب يلي سببت لنا ضغوطات نفسية كتير كبيرة. من هالأسباب هو فيروس كورونا يلي كان عم يجبرنا أنه نحن نكون محبوسين بالبيت ومنعنا أنه نكمل حياتنا بشكل طبيعي. هالشي سبب لنا قلق وتوتر كتير كبير. اثنين، التمييز يلي كانوا عم يتعرضوا له اللاجئين الفلسطينيين والسورية داخل لبنان من خلال المهن يلي كانوا عم ينمنعوا انه هن يمارسوها حتى لو بحبوها وحتى لو كانوا دارسين كتير سنين ومجتهدين لحتى يشتغلوا فيها بس بالاخر ما بيقدروا. كمان من الأسباب يلي سببت لنا ضغط نفسي هو التعليم عن بعد يلي كان كتير صعب بسبب انه نحن أدنى الأجهزة أو أبسط الأجهزة يلي لنكمل التعليم عن بعد مش موجودة بسبب طبعا الوضع الاقتصادي اللي مش منيح. هالاشياء سببت او كانت نتيجتها كتير بشعة على الاطفال والشباب. في كتير اطفال تركت المدرسة، زاد التسرب المدرسي. طبعا هذا الشيء رح يأثر بالمستقبل على انتاجية العمل بلبنان، والسلوكيات السلبية اللي صار عم يتصرفها الشباب والاطفال من عنف، من مشاكل بين أفراد الأسرة ومن مشاكل اجتماعية وفساد. من الحلول يلي نحن بنقترحها كشباب داخل لبنان إنه يكون في دعم وتمويل للمبادرات اللي بتكون بقيادة الشباب ويكون في دعم للأجهزة التعليمية لحتى نكمل التعليم عن بعد بطريقة أسهل وليكون الكل حاصل على هاي الفرصة إنه يكمل تعليمه عن بعد ويكون في برامج نفسية تدعمنا لحتى نكمل أو نقدر نكمل حياتنا بشكل طبيعي. ونحن من جهة تانية كشباب وأطفال وشابات لازم نكون عم نتمسك بالأمل، عم نحط أمل قدامنا إنه بعد قادرين نحقق أحلامنا وبعد في مستقبل لإلنا. وأهم شيء إنه نحن نعبر عن مشاعرنا وعن الأشياء اللي نحن بنحس فيها قد ما كانت بسيطة للأشخاص يلي حدنا، إن كان رفقة أو أهل أو أصحاب أو إخوة، لأنه هني دايما حدنا وما بيتركونا.
Rabbi, I'd like to go to you. I saw you nodding furiously when David mentioned that we have to participate in our own healing. In the context of your work in Lebanon, what made you nod so vigorously at that point? Oh, are you on mute? Are you on mute? We don't hear you. Should we try that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Great.
Thank you for the question. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think we all know that we live in a world that is getting more complex by the minute, and the challenges we're facing are big. And I believe if we are to have a real chance at properly run, the youth, the leaders of tomorrow, need to be way better than us at creative problem solving, critical thinking, self-awareness, self-management, but mostly at cooperation and celebrating diversity. Of equal importance, they need to have the focus, energy, and determination to push forward all these complexity and scale in addressing threats like the climate change. This is why it is important for them to be in a really good mental health. This entails, among other things, is to be able to ask for help and receive mental health support in a timely manner. For all of the above, I think investment in mental health, as Minister Kaag mentioned, should be seriously scaled up, from early childhood development to life skills program at schools to suicide prevention programs to quality mental health services that are available and affordable and acceptable. I mean, this might seem as a straightforward conclusion, but as we speak, suicide is still the second leading cause of mortality in youth. And only 1 in 10 persons with mental disorders are accessing care. In parallel, only 1% of the health budget goes to mental health in most countries. I'm deeply convinced that youth should be at the table where decisions about our future are made. They should be empowered and equipped in the best way possible if we are to have any hope for our future. And when I speak about hope, for me, hope is not a naive, wishful thought about the future. Hope comes with preparation, deliberate thought and action. Hope can and should be invested. I guess my message is simple. Investment in mental health is investment in our youth, is investment in hope for a better future to all of us.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. And Jayatma, Rabbi makes a super eloquent case for more investment in mental health. You are the UN special, or rather Secretary General Envoy on youth. What's stopping that investment? Why isn't more happening?
Thank you, David. I think the minister spoke about it so eloquently in her intervention that we lack 2 things. One is the political commitment when it comes to actually making those investments in the infrastructure, in the services that are needed for young people to access mental health services, but also we lack the awareness, particularly in the societies, in the communities, in our families. Mental health still is a topic that comes with a lot of stigma. We find it difficult to have these conversations in our families, in our schools, in our communities. So I really like when David said, and Marwa mentioned that as well, mental health interventions has to be contextualized to the contexts that the young people are in. And investing in youth-led initiatives, because young people themselves can find the solutions to the issues that they are facing. So those, I think, are the really concrete recommendations that came out of our youth speakers, and I want to fully, wholeheartedly endorse those recommendations, because that's what we have been asking for and pushing for, to invest in youth-friendly, community-led, youth-led mental health services, not necessarily the mental health services provided through, say, schools or formal institutions, because young people are more likely to access those services through their peers and through community support networks.
Thank you very much, Yatma. So there is no one-size-fits-all remedy. Listen, this is a hugely interesting topic, and a lot of very worthwhile things are being said. We have to keep it short, unfortunately, but I think we would very much like to hear from Josiah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, we've already discussed the effects of mental health and the fact that we also need more awareness for it. But in the midst of that, we're also in the middle of a climate crisis. Josiah, when looking at how mental health is affected by the climate crisis for young people, what do you see?
Yeah, 100%. As has been said by everyone, we are in a climate crisis, and that's alongside a growing mental health and addictions challenge crisis as well. And for many of us, climate change causes huge worry, and that's really normal. But for some others, it's causing like deep, paralyzing anxiety. And for us, a lot of us, we're not sure what to do with that. And so my encouragement would be to look at what Indigenous communities around the world, what we've done with land. Land is a source of our well-being. It's where our ancestors were. It's where our names are connected to. It's our grounding, our place of comfort. And our global mental health and well-being is connected to land. So we have to protect that. But I guess my friend and lecturer, Professor Bronwyn Hayward, and I wrote an article recently about how it's Indigenous leadership that's responded to colonisation, deep historical trauma like the stealing of our land, our language, our culture, our heritage. But we've always remained hopeful. And we've done that by looking after each other, by focusing on protecting our land, working together. And so I guess in the response to what we've got to do about climate and about mental health and climate, we've got to keep in mind Indigenous young people and Indigenous communities' voice. It should actually be Indigenous peoples leading the response, because we are the hope bringers. And also we need to implement the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change responses fully. Yeah. We can stop the climate crisis. We've got to have hope to stop it, but we can do it.
Yes, beautifully said. Thank you, Josiah. And Rasha, looking to you right now, what do you think are like some of the expectations that society puts on young people with regards to the climate crisis?
I think that climate crisis is an issue that wasn't started by us as the youth. It was started by many generations before us and has been pushed onto us to solve. And we're going to be the ones that are most affected by it, as it might be so horrendous in a couple of years that we might not be able to go outside during winter because it's too cold or because it's too hot. So we're facing issues that other generations practically caused, and we're supposed to solve it on ourselves. But I think that it's really important that if we would get help from the older generations, because we cannot proceed to continue and live on this world without solving these issues. And we are the younger generations, but we don't have that much power to actually to do it by ourselves. We need more people to do it, to help us solve climate change.
Yeah. Yeah. Minister, you heard it there. The youth is asking for help. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, I think all of us need to accelerate on our plans to meet the goals of Paris, to commit to zero emissions, either reduction and set the goals, and be more aggressive about it. I think we need to mobilize. Civil society is extremely important, also in countries where there is no democracy or hardly. It's not as easy to talk about it as it is in the Netherlands, of course, but we need to support all voices, help people not only be informed, do what they can locally, but we also know that the large emissions and the goals of Paris are really important. And in countries where there are free and fair elections, vote accordingly and have every party sort of climate-proof their political plans and hold them to account.
Very clear. Thank you very much, Minister.
You. Thank you indeed, and thank you everybody for your openness and your bravery for also sharing your personal stories. I think, as Josiah so beautifully said at the start, that we truly have spoken truth and beauty and goodness. So thank you so much. Yeah. I want to give the final word to Mrs. Jayatma Wikramanayake to give her concluding remarks after listening to this. What do you think, Jayatma?
I think everything has been said. The most important things have been said. But if I can wrap it up really quickly, I think national policies and investments have to be sensitive to young people's mental health needs. And where mental health and psychosocial support services for young people are present, they have to be expanded. They have to be accessible, stigma-free, and trustworthy for young people to reach out. Most importantly, we need a world where young people formulate and deliver change and solutions that they need for their mental well-being. So I urge all governments, not just Netherlands, to incorporate mental health into their COVID-19 recovery plans, because mental health has to go hand in hand with physical health if we are to truly survive and come out strong from this pandemic.
Very clear. Thank you very much, Jayatma, and thank you to all of our contributors during this session. Clearly, lots of great ideas for an urgent challenge that we faced. And you'll be pleased to know that obviously Jayatma mentioned that there are lots of services available already, and on the Youth at Heart website, if you click on the library link, you'll be able to get a list of the mental health and well-being services that are available. So please do use that link. And there are also more videos available with stories from youth around the world sharing their mental health wins, successes, challenges for you to watch. So thank you very much, everybody. And that brings this session to an end.
My name is Muzoon Al-Milayhan. I am education activist and the UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, and I am a refugee from Syria. I would like to thank the government of Netherlands for this great opportunity to join all of you today at this great event. I would like to talk how passionate I am about education. When I was living in refugee camps in Jordan, I was fighting for education for myself and also for other young people who were living there. I was going from 10 to 10 campaigning for children to go to school and never give up. For myself and other young people, education is a life-saving and it allows us to make the most of our talent wherever we are. Also, during my work with UNICEF as a Goodwill Ambassador, I was able to travel to countries like Chad, Mali, and Jordan, where I have met many children and young people. Despite serious challenges, they didn't give up. And also, they are fighting for their right to education, and they know it is the only way for a better future for themselves and for their communities. So it is so important to listen to young people and to hear their voices and insights to solve the problems that affect us. We need to be at the table every time decisions are made. Especially we have to listen to the voices of marginalized and displaced young people. Thank you.
They should have a say in their future just like anybody else, because we are no different. My name is Lucy Meyer, and I'm the spokesperson for the partnership between Special Olympics and UNICEF USA for kids with disabilities, and also a champion for Generation Unlimited. I have cerebral palsy because I was deprived of oxygen for 5 minutes at birth. The doctors told my parents that I would never cerebral follow. The doctors were wrong. Young people can become leaders by advocating for what they believe in. People with disabilities should be able to have jobs because they are smart and intelligent, just like everybody else. There is nothing better than when young people help other young people.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the next session, which is an intergenerational dialogue on learning, and it's led by Generation Unlimited. Now, Generation Unlimited, or Gen U, is a multi-sector partnership, a global multi-sector partnership that brings together the public and private sectors with young people with the goal of connecting every young person to the internet, thereby giving them lots of opportunities. Because if anything, the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted, it's the digital divide between youth in all parts of the world. There is still nearly 350 million young people not connected to the internet, and that means they're not able to access the career opportunities and the personal development and growth opportunities offered by the internet. Getting that to happen could be a fantastic equalizer. So it's a very important goal for all of us. Before I introduce the guests who will take part in this next session, first of all, we'd like to show you a video produced by Ogilvy that shows how crucial it is to connect every young person to the internet in order to enhance their digital learning and skilling capabilities. Hopeful video. It feels strangely appropriate that we are having connection problems. We do have everyone available for this session, but not everyone is actually visible. Nevertheless, let me tell you who we have. Minister Kaag is, of course, with us, and we have no connection problems there, so that's very good. We have Cynthia Nyongesa, who's a youth advocate and founder of the blog and brand Cynthia Untamed. Oh, Cynthia, we do have you in build. Looking fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us. And she's also a UNICEF volunteer in Kenya and a member of the Global Gen U Young People's Action Team. Farai Richard Goronga is the Chief of Marketing at Amigo Academic Portal, and he's the winner of the 2018 Global Gen U Youth Challenge. I saw him briefly. We can't see him right now, but he will be back, I'm sure of it. Henrietta Fore, the Executive Director of UNICEF and Co-Chair of the Gen U Board, looking equally fantastic. Thank you very much, Henrietta, for joining us. Tariq Al-Gurg, CEO of Dubai Cares, member of the Gen U Board of Trustees, as well as co-chair of the Gen U Task Force on connecting all schools and learners to the internet. Oh, what a grand background you have, Tariq. I love it. Thank you very much for joining us. And Pia Hegenes, the CEO of the IKEA Foundation, a member of the Gen U Board of Trustees, as well as the co-chair of the Gen U Task Force on boosting entrepreneurship skills and opportunities. Thank you very much, everybody, for being part of this session. I'd like to start with you, Cynthia. Oh, Cynthia's fed up. She's not impressed. She's gone. No, she is there. Fantastic. Cynthia, first of all, what did you think about that video? Were you what did you think about that video?
I was very inspired by the video, especially because I saw some of the young people who I know. We constantly talk on WhatsApp, and we're always talking about how we can change the world. And I think it's inspiring to see we as young people telling our leaders what we need.
Oh, I'm relieved that you're talking on WhatsApp. That one I know. It's not TikTok, or it's not, I don't know, whatever whatever is hot right now. But thank you very much. And listen, can you paint us a picture? What is the vision of a modern education that at least Kenyan youth are imagining?
First of all, young people are thinking about teachers who are digitally literate. We keep making fun that some of us are more literate than our own teachers when it comes to the internet. So we need to see our teachers being involved and knowing how to use these devices. And it's important to know that teaching using computers and all these digital devices is not just about switching the computer on and off. And I think that's important for teachers to recognize. It's also important for young people to be allowed to be very innovative. We still have an education system that's constantly looking at ways of passing in exams. But right now we need young people to be innovative. We need them to invent machines, to invent robots. We have young people who are already inventing the ventilators right here in Kenya.
Well said, well said. Thank you very much. I strongly agree. Listen, what's interesting at this stage is to hear from not just Cynthia and Farai, but other young people who are watching us right now. Let's get a sense of how they feel in relation to how we're doing with the internet, how they feel about digital connectivity, learning and skilling. How do those things impact their education, their career development and their communities? We're going to run a quick interactive poll. And the first question is going to be, what kind of impact do you think digital connectivity has on your prospects for higher education and career development? What kind of impact does digital connectivity have on your prospects for higher education and career development? Is it A, no impact at all? Is it B, a moderate impact? Or is it C, a significant impact? What do we have? And I'm about to get the results of that. They're going to come up on my... I know, what is it for you, Cynthia?
Well, for me, right now at home, I'm able to talk to you because I have internet at home. So young people are looking at internet connectivity and fiber connection, not only in their homes, but also in schools. However, it's also important to recognize that we can't have internet connectivity when we don't have the right infrastructure. When you go outside of Nairobi, our priorities are more about having a classroom. I've gone to school with children who told me in primary school they had to carry a stone to class. So how are you going to put the internet and fiber connection in a school that does not even have a building where we have floods and disasters? And it's also important to look at the innovative side of it, because we have places that are large, but they don't have so many people. So it's important to look at how we can put balloons in the areas, use digital satellites so that a lot of young people can still access the internet, even if they're far away from the Nairobi city.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. While we're still waiting for the results of that poll, let me go to the Minister. You heard Cynthia talk about the need for structural change, because it's all very well to say, yeah, let's give everyone access, but we need to be talking more about systems change. What can the what can the public sector be doing better to make these structural changes happen?
Well, ideally, public and private sector will work hand in hand. In key sectors to an economy of a country, to identify the skills that are not only needed now, but in future. And then we need to obviously tailor for the learning opportunities more digitally, more modernized, more accessible for young people, so they can prepare themselves to really come out on the job market with skills that are in demand, not the skills that were either their parents' generation or that are fading out. So it's very important to find the right match. The biggest ratio in unemployed young people is that they are ill-equipped, poorly supported, and poorly matched to the job market of today, but particularly that of tomorrow. So the unemployed will only rise, but we have a chance to change this using digital learning, accessibility, and therefore also affordability. But that needs the public sector to make it a priority.
Mm-hmm. And Farai, I saw you nodding vigorously in agreement with what the minister was saying.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
And
so I think we see. Yeah, okay, continue.
No, please, you continue. Sorry, this is a bit awkward. No, but you continue. Respond to what the minister said.
All right, yeah, so definitely I agree with what the minister was saying, because you see that there is a huge gap between the skills that people are being taught in schools versus the skills that and you see that technology, a lot of skills or techniques that we currently being used in the past, they became automated. So you see that in the end, there will be certain job cuts. So people now need to know that, okay, maybe back then, this degree would guarantee you of a job. But then now, what are the skills that are in demand? What are the skills that we need to learn so that we'll be relevant people and create a relevant workforce today and also tomorrow?
Thank you very much, Farai. And what role can specifically the private sector be playing to improve digital connectivity for young people? I'd like Tariq to come in on that, if that's okay.
Yes. Look, the private sector today has been hit as much as the education sector has been hit. If you see education globally, almost every single home got affected with education. So you're talking entirely, the entire planet has been affected. Companies, business, when I talk business, either it's private or government, just business as usual has been affected. And without the involvement of the private sector into the equation, governments won't be able to sustain education. Yes, a big component relies on the government, philanthropies, donors coming in, but the private sector's engagement is very important. And one of the main challenges of the past 8 months has been around access to connectivity and technology for learning. And that's where you have to have this synergy of both having access to either connectivity or ICT devices, so children won't be left behind. And addressing the issue of connectivity must also be a key priority moving forward, particularly if we want to support the most vulnerable children. A major global effort is needed to connect children and young people globally. Yeah. This would require definitely sustainable private sector investment, alignment of public funds and policy changes, among others. It's particularly important for the technology and telecommunications industries to play an active role in this effort. Otherwise, this whole thing will not work. It's an ecosystem. It's the new normal, of course. Yeah. Let's go back to what Gen U's main initiative on Giga objective is. It is to connect 5 million schools, which is 1 billion children to the internet by 2030. The ambition is bold, but I believe it's achievable.
Thank you very much, Tariq. I'd like to bring Henriette in on this, because one of the points that struck me from the video was this the statistic that there are nearly 350 million young people who don't have access to the internet. And we know that the tech industry has been hit hard, but of course the big tech seem to have only grown stronger throughout the pandemic. What more should they be doing? Are they doing enough to help young people get connected?
Well, they're not doing enough yet, but I think they can. So to Sigrid and Tariq's point, it's going to be a partnership, and they can really help. So we need connectivity for every school and thus every village in the world. We also need to be sure that there's enough good quality content that both teachers and students can learn at the same time and everywhere. We need to be sure that there are low-cost devices in the hands of teachers and students so that they can use them at home, like Cynthia, or that they can use them at school or in a rural community. So devices are going to be very important, and companies can help us with that. Mm-hmm. We also need telecom companies to lower the cost, make it affordable, as Sigrid mentioned, so that you can download educational material for free. Thus, everyone can learn. We need good quality learning. We're in a learning crisis in the world, and this chance to connect every school and every learner and every teacher to the internet will change our world. It will make it an equal playing field as young people are growing up. So there's lots more for us to do, and there are lots of companies that are interested in it. Microsoft and the University of Cambridge teamed with us to create something called the Learning Passport. It was originally just for refugee young people so that they could learn in their own languages, but it allows you to download your own national curriculum anywhere you are in your own language, continue learning. It's those kinds of solutions that will make a difference.
Very concrete steps that you've laid out there. Thank you very much, Henrietta. But to what extent do we need to be careful that the internet becomes a healthy and democratic place for those next 350 million young people? Per, maybe you can speak to that.
Well, I think we can use the internet first and foremost to drive entrepreneurship and enable young people to have opportunities. And entrepreneurship is really at what are the root cause of and the core of our work in IKEA and the foundation. So it's interesting that the founder of IKEA, Ingvar Kamprad, he started his business when he was 17 years old, and he's a great entrepreneur and with a vision of creating a better everyday life for many people. So if you look at that in face of today's challenges, a social entrepreneurship initiative that was launched by IKEA builds on these roots. It really does this firstly in business partnerships by accelerating social entrepreneurs through programs with NGOs such as Ashoka and Acumen. But secondly, by actually engaging IKEA employees as mentors and coaches to provide the much needed technical and business advice to these enterprises. So again, a lot of mentorship and coaching is being provided digitally and through Zoom calls and other technology tools that are available to us today. For the foundation, though, it's...
So before you talk about the foundation, Per, I was just going to say, question the idea that big private companies really buy into the idea of leveling the playing field and what the benefits are for them. Like how will helping a young person in Sierra Leone help a stock-listed company in Stockholm, for instance?
I think with the enormous challenges we're facing in the world today, providing job opportunities and entrepreneurship opportunities to young people, everyone needs to collaborate. And we need to call for unprecedented collaboration. It can't be up to the UN or up to the government to provide all these job opportunities. The private sector has a real opportunity to do this in a way that they not only strengthen their supply chains and create opportunities, but they do something to benefit everyone in the world and therefore drive their social responsibility agenda in the same way that everyone else should do.
Mm-hmm. And what is the foundation then doing in order to increase entrepreneurship skills in other parts of the world, outside Europe, for instance, among young people?
Yeah, we actually work with a number of partners to drive entrepreneurship, to create a better future for children and youth, which is the core of what we do at the foundation. And we believe that the key to that better future is really ensuring that families have both financial stability and a healthy planet to live on. Both are important. So young people have huge potential to develop new and innovative solutions to help tackle these complex challenges. So as a foundation, we're working with a number of partners around the world to firstly ensure young people have the entrepreneurial skills to thrive. Then secondly, to enable young people to start and build sustainable enterprises. And thirdly, to mobilize and collaborate with other players to support sustainable businesses that protect the planet and create employment opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And Minister Kaag, you heard Henrietta was optimistic and explaining that the big tech companies, for instance, are not doing enough yet, but they will be. Is there anything government can do, I don't know if it's a carrot or a stick approach, but to incentivize these huge tech companies, for instance, to help achieve our common goal?
Well, I'm not quite sure if it's all what we can do directly, but we need to be in this partnership. This is what the Sustainable Development Goal 17 is all about. So I think, as Tarek has said and others, we need the private sectors to allow access to the technology, to build, to invest. Governments need to use public financing to build the infrastructure or have the policies in place. And ultimately, the partnership is all around work to employ people, to give perspectives, and therefore you invest and you also grow an economy. It's neither carrot or stick. It is a number of very smart decisions and to invest the money wisely, but give a lot of space to the private sector that those who want to do the right thing, to give them the space to do it and lead by example and inspire others. We need to move the digit on this very fast. Otherwise, young people will grow up without hope, and certainly there will be children in war situations that are growing up without an education. So there's a digital opportunity, but the risk of a digital divide is even greater. So there's no time to lose.
How fast can we do it, Minister?
Well, it's not how fast. It's sort of as lightning speed. It's not even as how fast can we do it. It's a must. It's not how or if. We all know the hows. We know the barriers. It's a must.
Clear. Let's go back to the results of the poll are now in. And the question was, remember, what kind of impact do you think digital connectivity has on your prospects for higher education and career development? No impact, moderate impact, or significant impact? And unsurprisingly, perhaps 80% of the responders say it has a significant impact. Yeah, like I said, that's fairly unsurprising, but we clearly have work to do. We also have received a question from the public. How can we make an additional effort to create changes for young women in education and entrepreneurship with regards to internet connectivity and digital skills, and the existence of the gender digital divide in some regions of the world? So, Tariq, are there initiatives that you have specifically focused on bridging the gap of the gender digital divide?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have quite a few programs. We have a big chunk of a portfolio for girls' education, and that includes the full spectrum, whether it's from early childhood development to primary up to the youth and skilling. In Central America itself, we have a huge portfolio covering this. And by doing that, first you have to prepare the girl child, and then you nurture her, build her capacity, and then involve her into the sector. The private sector plays a big role. Without the involvement of the private sector or having in-kind or pro bono services to these girls, it won't be possible. We as Dubai Cares, we're working closely with UNICEF and UNESCO on a global declaration on digital connectivity. That will include a lot of organizations, including governments and the private sector. The girls chapter will be also involved into that, because we know that a lot of girls and women in the developing world, they would rely staying at home and doing work. And for us to bring the internet to their homes, bringing internet to their community, bringing internet to their schools, they can actually do it. And you've realized what's been happening lately for the past at least 5 years. All the call centers and everything has been outsourced. The customer service, everything has been outsourced. And women are doing it all across the world from their homes. Now, post-COVID, every single person, 6 or 7 billion people are doing it from their homes as well. So there's a huge opportunity there. I mean, if we, as Dubai Cares, as a small philanthropy compared with the giants out there, we are investing $2.5 million into Giga. And we're working on this global declaration on connectivity. And a big chunk of it, we will be covering girls because they are part of the society and the GDP, basically. Other companies can also be involved. We have, if I remember, we have Ericsson, Facebook, USAID collectively invested $8 million in Giga just to set the platform. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of hope. And just to conclude, to make this happen, women and girls have to be part of the equation. And I always say it, and I will say it again and again, without educated girls, you will not have educated mothers. And without educated mothers, there will not be any insistence of mothers taking their children to school. So the more we educate girls, we will have a lot of educated mothers in the future, and they will insist of all their children going to school.
Thank you very much, Tariq. When we're talking about young, ambitious, driven, clever, powerful young women, I think we have to bring in Cynthia. Cynthia, are you there?
Yes,
I think she is there. Good. What do you think about what Tariq just said?
Well, I really think what he has said is so important, because I have seen a lot of girls my age dropping out of school because they had a baby early in life. But if we put systems in place to support them, I think that would be very important. However, when we're also talking about young mothers, I think it's also important to recognize that we need to support them even if they didn't go to school, because you find that right now we're talking about the competence-based curriculum, and we're telling parents to teach their own kids at home, yet their own mothers are illiterate. How are they going to be able to teach their own kids if they themselves did not go to school? Which is why we need to keep investing in girls. However, I think for girls, it's very important for them to have self-confidence, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody is going to come and uplift your confidence. You have to put it in your mind that you can actually do a lot of things and do a lot of great things and speak to important people and be a key decision maker in this world. And it's also important for them to think of themselves as problem solvers, even as they speak to these leaders, because how you view yourself as a woman then determines how these leaders view you as an individual and as a person.
Good grief, Cynthia, I get goosebumps when you talk. What a wonderful explanation there. And yeah, thank you very much for that. Farai, let's go to you. You heard a lot of ideas shared by our more senior representatives, people with lots of experience, let's describe them that way. What was missing? Did you hear anything that you thought was good, and are there things that you missed?
Well, I think they mentioned most of the things that I've been thinking about, but I think I would want to emphasize on the involvement of the young people, involvement of the girls, and involvement of the women. Because I think it's one thing trying to come up with solutions that are affecting a certain group of people, if I should put it that way, without consulting them. So in my opinion, I think it would be best to approach this situation using a system whereby if we're saying, okay, girls are facing these challenges or women are facing these challenges, we make sure that women become part of identifying problems, they become part of coming up with solutions to those problems, and they also become part of the team that will be implementing those solutions. I think that way it will have more impact than maybe having someone saying a story for someone else.
Clear, thank you very much. And what about you, Cynthia? Were there things that you wish you'd heard during this session?
Yes, especially on the role of the private sector. Some universities here are on strike because they are saying that they have no access to the internet. I tried to access a teacher in school to retrieve my previous results. They say they had no internet. And I think this is where the private sector really should come in and lower the cost of the internet. However, now that students are at home, the private sector can also come and distribute learning kits, or rather provide funding for learning kits. I have seen in MIT, the lecturers are going to class, recording classes, and sending simulations to students. How about we do this in our own continent, in Africa and in Kenya specifically, so that we see more young people accessing school? We've also had that challenge where young people can't access their teachers. I think it's important for the private sector to come in and fund a call center where we as students can call our teachers and tell them, I do not understand A, B, C, and D. How can you assist me? Because it's very difficult for us as learners to call our teachers and they say, no, I cannot talk to you. I have no airtime.
Well, you may not have been able to get through to your teacher to get the results, but I have a hunch that you did extremely, extremely well. So don't worry about that.
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's the kind of attitude we love to see and hear. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Minister, I'd like to turn to you. We've heard some fantastic ideas. Perhaps you could give some closing remarks for this session.
That's always an interesting one. Well, I think we know life is digital wherever you are, but we need to enhance connectivity, invest in infrastructure, make the technology available for learning. We need to accept that learning is much less monolithic. It'll be micro-curricular based. This gives opportunities also to people who've dropped out, particularly in far-to-reach areas. And we need to connect skills, job skills, life skills, and really have the right policies. But technology is also something we need to harness, and we need to look at the ethical boundaries. So let's not embrace everything around technology. Let's be smart about it too, but let's share the good part of it.
Absolutely. We need a healthy relationship with the internet. And on that note, that brings this session to a close. I'd like to say thank you very much to all of our speakers from across the world for dialing in. Very much appreciated. Yeah, please continue the fight to bridge that digital divide. Thank you very much, and we'll be continuing shortly with our next session on jobs. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our session devoted to the youth and jobs. Because as we know, the growth of the job market worldwide is not in step with the growth of the population, and that presents a lot of challenges. And arguably, COVID-19, our post-corona world, or our current corona world, is exacerbating those challenges and maybe even laying bare inequalities that already existed. And those are things that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is looking to solve head on. How they're going to do that is what we're going to be discussing in this session. And I have some contributors who will be joining me. The first is already at the table, the Dutch Ambassador for Youth Education and Work, Tijmen Rozenboom. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Kenna.
Virtually joining us online, we have Rabia Anwar from the Employers Federation of Pakistan. Rabia, thank you for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Good. And we have two more guests who are currently not online, but hopefully they'll be joining us shortly. Director Sanyon Lee, who is the Director of the Employment Policy Department at the ILO, and another youth representative representing an ILO constituent, that is Jane Njoki. She's representing the Central Organization of Trade Unions. The format of this session is a little different. I am somewhat relieved of my question-asking duties because Jane and Rabia will be able to pose questions to Ambassador Tijmen and Director Sanyon Lee. And then we'll turn the tables on the youth and our more experienced statesmen. We had this discussion before, didn't we, Tijmen, about how I refer to people like us, elderly statesmen.
Non-youth, I like.
Non-youth. We'll be able to ask the youth questions. But before we begin, I'd like to share a video message from ILO Director General Guy Ryder.
Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, let me commend the government of the Netherlands for its commitment to young people at this time of crisis. And I'm confident that with the leadership of Minister Kaag, the Youth at Heart Forum will lead to powerful actions with and for youth. Colleagues, the ILO's estimates show that the equivalent of 495 million full-time jobs were lost during the second quarter of 2020 as a consequence of the pandemic. And there has been a massive increase in youth unemployment, particularly amongst young women. We have seen lower job quality for the young people who are in work, while the situation has been dismal for those entering the labour market. And we are greatly concerned also about the disruptions to learning that have occurred due to the pandemic. While online teaching has allowed many schools and universities to continue offering courses, for many students, particularly in developing countries, education remains inaccessible. This has exposed the deep digital divides across our globe. The ILO and its partners in the Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth have conducted a global survey on youth and COVID-19. It documents the negative impacts of the pandemic on young people's education, employment, rights, and mental well-being. But it also shows how youth have been actively responding to the crisis, including through social activism, volunteering, and awareness raising. And over the past month, the ILO has held a series of meetings with young people from refugee communities whose lives have become even more uncertain. Our consultations in Kenya, Uganda, and Jordan gave us the insights and advice of young people who live in these communities and want a path for change. Their voices were loud and clear in calling for investments in employment, education, and health, particularly for the most vulnerable, and for the protection and respect of human rights. The ILO's commitment to young refugees and young people in host communities is strong. And we are working closely with the Dutch government and others under the Prospects Partnership to improve the protection, livelihoods, and educational opportunities of refugees and their host communities. So I want to invite you to join hands with these partners to address the devastating impact that this current crisis has had on young people and work with and for all young people so that they can have opportunities for decent work now and in the future. Thank you.
Now, the impact of COVID-19, of course, is unprecedented. And it's not only negatively affecting the job and employment prospects of young people, but disrupting their education and training and taking a serious toll on their well-being, as we've heard before in the MHPSS session. Now, the Director General there referenced a survey which has been conducted, and it's available on the Youth at Heart website. It's incredibly well put together, and actually it's available in 23 languages, so you've really got no excuse not to read it. So I advise you to go and read that if you'd like to know more about the ILO's position. And on that note, I think we can actually move on, because we've got Jane has joined us now as well, Jane and Njoki, representing the Central Organization of Trade Unions. Can you hear us, Jane? I think you're on mute. I think that's the only problem. But okay, we'll hear from you shortly. Let us kick things off. Remember, the format was slightly different. Rabia, perhaps you can ask your first question to the ambassador. Take it away.
Hi, thank you very much for providing me this opportunity. I am very honored to be part of this panel. Ambassador Roosboom, muchness. Youth are not only disproportionately affected in the Netherlands and Europe, but in Africa and low-income countries too. What are some of the measures and responses that your government is taking? And can you give us concrete examples of how young people are involved?
Am I allowed to answer?
You may.
The question was rightly directed at me.
You may.
Rabia, thank you so much for this excellent question. You're very right. I mean, young people are, their prospects are hit hard everywhere, actually. And we actually see specifically in some areas, also in Africa and in the Middle East, we really see that the young people are, well, they suffer quite some consequences from the pandemic, and even from the measures to stop the pandemic, so to say. So you're absolutely right. And I think it was also became very clear from that message that DG Ryder just gave, and the summary that you gave of their survey. It is an issue. What we have is actually, because you're asking what we do, that is actually, we have a Youth at Heart strategy, and that strategy is aimed in improving the prospects of young people. That means education and work. That means working on the skills and jobs of young people. But you can't talk about that without also mentioning the whole issue of the voice of young people, their participation, their meaningful engagement, so to say, within these programs and within society. These are two sides of the same coin, and that is a very important part of our strategy. And I can give you some examples first of our programs. We have, for example, the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, which works with the private sector to enhance the prospects of 200,000 young people in Africa and the Middle East. We also have, we support Generation Unlimited. I just came from a session with them as well. We have programs aimed specifically at bridging that gap that exists between skills and jobs. I just heard in the other session before, this was also mentioned, this skills gap that exists. Then we also have Prospects, which is a broad partnership together with the ILO, which actually aims at helping young refugees and host communities. But now the second part of your question, which was, of course, very relevant. How are young people involved, right? I would say there are good examples. For example, in this Challenge Fund that I just mentioned, young people are really involved in the scoping of the scoping study, so to say, before it starts. It's a new fund. On the other hand, in Generation Unlimited, I know they really try to co-design and co-create with young people. And also in Prospects, they really try to work with young people throughout the cycle, the project cycle. So within our development cooperation, this is very important, not just ask young people before or give them a place at the table, but actually try to involve them also in the monitoring and in the implementation. So I would say we can still improve, all of us, international partners, we as a government, and we're making steps. The minister just launched a youth advisory committee a couple of hours ago and presented that we want to do that specifically to get better at this, to make sure that it's actually the challenges and opportunities of young people at the heart of what we do. And of course, if I may add, this virtual forum. I mean, this is why we also organize this, to make sure that we get the voice of young people, also talking to policymakers like we're doing now. So I'm very grateful for ILO and Decent Jobs for Youth to make sure that actually this conversation is here. So I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yes, definitely.
Rabia, are you sure? You can be
Yes,
critical.
definitely.
If he didn't do well enough, then you can tell him.
No, actually, I do agree with the point that including youth, the table talks where the decision-making process is going on. And just like you've said that it is important to include them and to make them feel powerful. Because youth is the future, right? And if you're not including them in our decision-making process, then we are creating a very difficult position for the youth to catch on. Especially this pandemic has created a lot of problems as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, and Rabia, before we turn the tables and allow Timon to ask you a question, we've got a question that's come in from the audience for you, Rabia. Finding employment remains difficult, especially for young women. How do you stimulate inclusive work at the Pakistan Employers Federation?
Oh, that's a very good question, and I'm very excited to answer that. Right now, we have introduced a kind of like an apprenticeship program where we are creating linkages between academia and the business. So we are trying to create a curriculum which is helpful for the students to catch up right after they graduate. And we're providing apprenticeship programs, paid apprenticeship programs, where they have 6 to 7 months of work experience on the job training. And we're providing them for free. So we have we have actually gathered a few volunteers for this work. They are very excited to join us from next month. So this is how we are to catch up with the problems that this pandemic has brought. And the youth are very much optimistic, and they understand the problem that the employers are facing because of the job loss and laying off people. But they are ready to stand with the employers, with us, and to take this step by step. So it starts with understanding first, and then starting with the apprenticeship program that I just mentioned.
Great, thank you very much, Rabia. And everyone will be pleased to hear that Director Sun-Yeon Lee, Director of the Employment Policy Department at the ILO, is able to join us. He's on the phone, so we won't be able to see video footage of him, but he's available and he's on the phone. But before we go to him, of course, Timon, it is now your opportunity to ask Rabia a question.
Now I'm going to ask a question to Jane, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Jane, the COVID-19 pandemic really negatively affected youth employment. This also was very clear in the ILO survey. But some people would say that it's actually more difficult to work on prospects for young people because they're not well organized. You can hear that criticism sometimes. So how would you respond to that? And can you actually give a concrete example of how you drive collective action? And as this whole forum is about unmuting the voice, please unmute yourself.
Are we going to get you, Jane? Oh, I think we're just either still on mute or we're having some connection problems. Yeah? No, it seems as though we've got. Perhaps is this a question we need to ask to Rabia in the meantime? Or do we have the director on board? Do we have Director Sun-Yeon Lee? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Ah, hello, Director.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm
Thank you very
sorry.
much. No, we don't blame you
some
for
technical
internet connectivity issues. Don't worry about it. That's fine. Now, there was a question that Jane had for you, Director, and I'm going to pose it while we try and work on fixing Jane's audio issues. Here's the question. In your role as the ILO's Deputy Director General for Policy, what is your advice for ensuring that young people, especially those most vulnerable, are not only included in the pandemic recovery efforts, but that their workers' rights are protected and promoted? So how do you ensure that as well?
Thank you so much. Probably you don't see me, but I'm very excited. I'm smiling, so, so I'm happy to be here as well. So let me answer your question by just summarizing some key impacts of the pandemic on young people. I mean, in nutshell, every economic crisis penalizes young people. We know that, but this crisis will do even more. This is because of the multifaceted aspect of the crisis, as very well demonstrated by the mentioned, which was done by the ILO and partners of the Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth. And first, very obviously, this crisis took away jobs. We know that from the global survey, 1 in 6 actually youth stopped working since the pandemic began. The second, crisis took away, this is important, took away education and training opportunities as well. We estimate more than 70% of young students and youth combining study and work, they have been adversely affected by the pandemic. Third, not surprising, young people's mental well-being, as you discussed, suffered. Our survey basically saying 50% of young people are now possibly subject to anxiety and depression. So if you put all these elements together, we have to expect a longer scarring effect, which will affect so many young people throughout their lives. So this is not just about the today and tomorrow. It's all about the whole life ahead of young people. So let me also add another particular challenge faced by the young refugees during this time, who are already, very well, already in vulnerable situation. So this point came out very strong in our consultation with the youth groups and in Kenya and Uganda and Lebanon, which was undertaken again in the context of the prospective partnership as the ambassador mentions. So what can we do? We need really urgent and large-scale and targeted policy responses because we need to protect whole generation of young people from having their employment prospect permanently scarred by the crisis. So as an immediate response, we need a strong counter-cyclical fiscal measures together with a strengthened national employment policy. This will help us to support the job retention and creation. And at the same time, we need to boost the investment in education training, especially to reach out those people who are likely to be left out. In that way, young people will be ready when economic activities bounce back. In doing so, we need to protect young people's income and jobs and health through the provision of social protection and also unemployment insurance benefit. And important right now, we need to invest in mental health service as well, and psychosocial support, and also sports activities for youth. In doing so, social dialogue is crucial. I cannot emphasize more on that, and especially ensuring young voices are heard is crucial. Giving young people a say in decision making will not only make the policy measures are responding to their concern, but also it will improve the effectiveness of the policies and programs. So building on all these solutions and under the prospect partnership and with also Dutch government, we are working together to advance the opportunities together with and for young people. And this particular moment, we are focusing on leveraging digital economy to facilitate the inclusive transition of young refugees and young people in post-commitment to employment.
Okay.
So that's my quick summary.
Thank you very much, Director. Thank you very much. Talking of crucial young voices, I think we may have one back with us. Jane, can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me right now.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Perhaps you'd like to respond to what the Director General was saying.
Yeah, thank you very much for those positive remarks that you've just mentioned. One key thing that you've mentioned that is key to us as a labor movement is the issue of social dialogue, social protection, employment, and also the rights of young workers. And all those key 4 pillars actually touches on the issue of decent work. And right now we are actually campaigning to ensure that employers actually observe the said key agendas, especially the issue of social protection. Currently, right now, young people are working from home. But the question is, are there social protection adhered to in terms of their rights, also in terms of do they even get engaged in other activities? As you mentioned in your remarks, that these key 4 pillars of decent work should be adhered to, and employers should take key observant when employing, even us as young people, when we are working at home, when we are using technology, because we've just seen the challenges of technology right now. So we need to see and make sure that the issue of social dialogue, social protection, rights of young workers, and an employment issue is addressed.
Thank you very much, Jane. I'd like to go, we have a question from the audience for Timon. That question is for representative, for you. How can we include a gender perspective and decent work for young women within the Building Back Better strategy after the negative impacts of COVID-19?
That's a big question. Not one to answer when the clock is ticking away, but I'll try to do my best.
You have to.
I have to. This is crucial, and I actually, one of the funds I just mentioned, this challenge fund specifically also aims at trying to include young women, because we do know that it's very often young women who have the extra barriers, so to say. Some of the challenges that we see during COVID, challenges with regards to education, challenges with regards to employment. You said they're being exacerbated by the pandemic. Mm-hmm. This is even worse for young women. Mm-hmm. So many of these issues, they very often are in sectors where the jobs are disappearing, mm-hmm. and for them it's very often more difficult to re-enter into school. Mm-hmm. And you can generally say that for young women, the challenges are, there's an extra layer of challenges. So we need to make sure that we specifically address the issue of not just young people, but specifically of young women when we're looking at building back, or when we're looking at the COVID response, when we're looking at programs aimed at employment, at youth employment. Because, well, entrepreneurship is also a very interesting subject, or other ways, or other job markets. There's also a lot of stereotypes for women who then are not seen to be fit for certain jobs or for certain sectors. So these type of stereotypes that exist, they're also important to keep in mind and try to address. If you listen to the young generation, you have to be positive and think that everything is possible. Mm. But if you just look at the statistics, we know that the challenge is real.
Yes. Yep, lots of challenges, but lots of passionate people who want to solve those challenges. Sanyan, I'd like to go to you. This is your opportunity to ask Rabia a question. Would you like to go ahead and do that?
So, Rabia, probably you don't see me very well, but I clearly see you, and so this smiling face. As you know, as I mentioned, one of the issues which came out of our study is the really importance of the young people's mental health in the workplace. So I just wonder if you can speak a bit more about this, and especially how employers and the private sectors are supporting mental health during this very difficult crisis period. Over to you, Rabia.
Thank you. So I do know that this global health crisis and the mental health and well-being has been an integral part of health and safety at the workplace, especially even before this pandemic. This is a time of great uncertainty and change for many of us. This global health crisis has rapidly translated into an economic and social crisis and is affecting the mental health and well-being of every individual, especially young women. Youth is the present, not only the future, and their aspiration, resilience, and mental well-being is an important role in determining a successful transition into decent work and the future of work that we have envisioned. I would like to quote some findings from ILO study, which are very important. For example, 50% of young people are possibly subject to anxiety and depression, mainly because their education or work has been disrupted by the pandemic. 30% of people also reported experiencing decrease in income, while 54% reported loss of jobs, mainly because of close of businesses and offices. This has created a feeling of relentlessness and uncertainty in the youth, and they are fearful about their future career prospects. And this takes a toll on their mental health and well-being. I think that is why it is very important to address this issue at workplace. However, despite these unprecedented challenges, we are building back together, gradually, but we are. And this comes to the second part of the question, that the role of the employers is that during these uncertainties, the role of the employers remains the same, providing support through financial, in work-related area, health and safety, including mental health. For example, the leaders in the front line have been addressing the mental health issues by promoting an open and accepting culture. They clearly communicate about where to go and whom to ask for support if needed. They're also supporting online education, providing subsidies for online education, and providing personal protective equipment, foods, and other hygiene products. They're also initiating productive conversations about mental health at the work to increase awareness, to build a community, and to offer peer support. So it is important that it is very critical for the employer to lead with passion during this pandemic, offer support, reach out, and provide a space to the youth to open up about their problems and struggles they're facing, be vulnerable, show authentic leadership, because this will cultivate a culture of trust and will support mental health. How we feel is very important, and I cannot stress this much, that it is okay not to be okay. So I think it's best if we come together and use this opportunity and create mentally healthy workplace cultures, inclusive of all. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, it answers it beautifully, Rabia. Thank you very much. Be vulnerable and show authentic leadership. I think that's a beautiful sentiment that we can apply or encourage everyone to feel. Thank you very much. Before we close this session, I'd really like to get a sort of final reflection from everyone. It's difficult. It's a difficult question, but what would you like audience members watching this to really take away? Perhaps we can start with you, Jane.
Well, with the current situation about the COVID-19, for us to build a strong and fair society, my first presenter talked about the issue of mental health. And for us to build a strong economy, minding that the current society comprises of 65 to 70% of young people, we need to have a fair society. We need to think of inclusivity. We need to include young people in major decision making, especially when it comes to the issue of employment. Let the employers be on the front to bring the young people on the decision-making table when creating policies, when developing policies that affect the employment. Let young people be included in such kind of tables.
Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you very much. And I'm just hearing, unfortunately, we don't have time for that final reflection, although it feels inappropriate not to get that from our host, from one of the people who brought this all together. Timon, can you share something very briefly?
I would say the reflection is, We need to invest in the prospects of young people, in their skills and jobs, and we need to do it with them as a partner. And I want to thank this wonderful panel. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. Much appreciated. I'm very pleased we managed to solve those technical issues, Jane. Thank you for joining us. Right. We are hopeful as a result of that session. Obviously, there are challenges involved, but we are optimistic. And unbelievably, that brings us nearly to the close. We're going to start the next session, is the wrap-up session. I can't believe it's all gone so quickly today, Tijmen.
Yes. Yes, it's ridiculous.
But before we get to that wrap-up session, we have a little surprise for you. We have a spoken word artist who's going to perform for all of us, and that artist is YMP.
Hi, my name is YMP, and I'm very honored that the organization asked me to sum up the day. But before I start, I want to say, ja, youth at heart. Heart, in that word, we can find the word art, and art connects. So here we go. Nelson Mandela once said, the youth of today are the leaders for tomorrow. So I'm very glad that we've put up an excellent standard for today, and the world will follow. They say you sow what you reap. So if we sow love today, what will we get back in a few weeks? Let's start sowing love and create a unity. Sowing love is like watering a tree. It will grow throughout the years. So let's do the same thing with our policies and our communities. The road will be long, but it will be worth it. I couldn't keep up with all the names today, so I will address the young people as excellence or the future. I saw excellence in Studio Orange and Studio Blue, Studio Purple, Pink, but the only thing missing here today, that was you. But I felt the energy of the future and the need to speak their truth. I even saw a musician spitting fire in the booth. I saw rappers, motivational speakers, storytellers, winners, DJs, activists, and ministers. The whole world was connected today. We traveled from Ethiopia to the West Wing, and it was nice to see. It was nice to finally see a beautiful woman in office, and I say that with the utmost respect. Let's invest in mental health and well-being, female entrepreneurship, provide the youth with tools to build the seats and the tables, focus on education, peer-to-peer coaching, it will be amazing. Amplify the voices that need to be heard. Dream big, dream so big that nothing can make it burst. You rock, Rocky, and yeah, youth at heart. Dreams can really hurt, but it's better to try and fail than to have never tried at all. Stand for something and fall for nothing. Trust me, it means something. Minister Kaag told us that she's the oldest in the room. Minister, you are not old, you are wise, and you do what every minister should do. Inspire and lead by example. We are the crazy ones, we are mad. Mad, make a difference. All we got is us, and that's more than we ever had. We are creating positivity coming from so much negativity and making something out of nothing. And instead of seeing the obstacles, we see the possibilities. We are living in challenging times to be young. And giving money is not enough. Not anymore. The future doesn't want the keys, we want the doors. We used to beg for a seat, now we want to build the tables, and even more, we want to be seen. Hashtag, I am not a charity case. Hashtag, now us. Hashtag, put me in place and I will change the world day by day. And let's launch a new one, a new hashtag. You can do it from your residence. Everybody grab your phones and tweet, I want hashtag Kaag for president. Africa is excellent. Africa is in here and wherever. The A stands for amazing, the F stands for forever. The R stands for rights, the I stands for innovation, and the C stands for creative. And the last A stands for A+, I mean triple A, quality. Hashtag be the change you want to see. Let's protect our women, all our women, our black women, our white women, our transgender women, and every woman in between. I will fight for the rights of every woman by any means. They will give us life, they give us life. It gets no better. Be youth at heart and wise at mind. Accept your flaws and trust Father Time. Nature the soul, enjoy your time. Make mistakes and make sure you fly. Future, fly as high as you can go. Never accept a no, and if you know that you are right, know your rights. Take a left if it feels good. And the most important thing is, be brave, be you. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We can't change the world if we can't change ourselves by heart. Be the voice of somebody who can't speak. Be the eyes of somebody who can't see. Be the air I breathe. Be the inspiration when I am in need. I want to introduce a new meaning of ja. Ja, you are humble. Ja, you are hope. Ja, you are the youth at heart. Ja, you are halo. Believe in yourself, invest in others. The future matters. Inspire others. Thank you.
Wow, YMP, folks. How impressive was that?
Really
fantastic. All, yeah, written on the basis of everything that he's seen and heard today. My favorite line was, "The future doesn't want the keys, we want the doors." Yes, people, that's exactly what we want. Full of hopeful and optimistic messages. And another reason to be optimistic is, do you see how I did that? That lovely bridge there.
Really good, Ikenna, yeah.
Thank you, thank you. My co-host is back, Hajar Yahuik. Hajar, welcome back.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here, guys, and
So,
see you all.
what have you been doing? Why weren't you here?
I was just chilling with some of my younger friends, Ikenna.
Younger friend, I've told you. Exactly, this is ridiculous. I'm 21, I've told her. Or 24.
I thought you said 24, indeed. My friend. What are you telling us, Ikenna?
Okay, let's move on.
Move on real quick, right?
This final session is, of course, the wrap-up of a terrific day. And we've got more speakers joining us. The ambassador is still with us, Ambassador Rooseboom, the ambassador for youth, education and work. Minister Sigrid Kaag is going to be joining us shortly. There she is. She's back online. Thank you very much. And we're joined at the table by two young people. We have Dennis Odhiambo. And Dennis, your CV is fantastic. Your career spans aerospace, semiconductor manufacturing, and consumer electronics. And today you're representing the EU-AU Youth Hub. So welcome.
Thank you.
And Noah Haji, you are currently the president of the Organization for Students in Vocational Education. Welcome to you too, Noah. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
I feel like bad. I said his CV sounds really impressive, and then I just said, and Noah.
I'm probably also one of the youngest at the table at 18 years old.
Oh, okay.
18!
It's a part of it.
Oh.
That's an extra plus point for you, indeed.
Minister, you see what you're doing to me here? This is terrible. An 18-year-old here. Okay. Take it away.
It's healthy.
Yeah, oh my God, not so 21 anymore, Ikenna, right now, right? No, but obviously we're here at the Virtual Youth Forum, so I only feel that it's normal to start with you, Noah and Dennis. You've seen the Virtual Youth Forum today so far. How were your sessions? What are your thoughts about the entire forum today?
Yes, there's another. Okay, I'll take it away. Well, between running backstage and basically trying to get ready, I was only able to participate in the session that I was part of, which is in the Purple Studio, getting to introduce the world to the EU Youth Hub, where we were discussing the various projects that we're working on, as well as pretty much a deep dive into the governance project, which was an innovative way of bringing together youth from Ireland and Tanzania to be able to hold the leaders accountable. Yeah. So we got quite a lot of engagement. We had a lot of questions, which we unfortunately didn't have time to go through. So even that alone is quite inspiring that the youth are really engaged and trying to get their voice heard.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Noah, maybe from your side, as the president of the Organization for Youth who do Vocational Education, like the topics that you've seen today, what do they spark within you when you see them?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I wasn't able to really participate in one of the sessions. I did hear that well over 1,000 youngsters have joined us today, so I'm very content to hear that. Yeah. And I'm very excited to see what's next.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear from you guys as well, also from our other guests at the table. But first, before we go on to that, I have a very special thing to show you guys, because our wonderful production team has been able to make a short video of the virtual forum so far today. Let's have a look.
I think that it's very important to determine how we want to engage with young people.
We talk a lot about young people. Not enough in the room, not enough with them. They're as much a player as we are. Age cannot be a barrier.
We work with young people that have to deal with social exclusion. They get the feeling like, I don't know if I can do this, and we try to switch that mindset.
What would you advise youngsters that are watching live with us right now?
To follow your passion and also believe in yourself that you can be a problem solver. You are the solution, you are tomorrow's leaders.
We are no longer in the era of professionalism, we are now in the era of creativity and innovation. Technical and vocational skills drive creativity and innovation.
I learned how to build a brand and also learned how to be confident, and I got all of this from the Next Economy program.
There needs to be more open forum for all youth around the world to be able to reach out to someone and tell them, hey, I'm not doing okay, I need help with something.
Great.
Yes, very inspirational, very inspirational. And also, can I just say thank you to our wonderful production team, because I can totally imagine that it's quite a job to make a video of a forum that is happening live today. So props to them for doing that. Now, Minister Kaag, I would like to go on to you right away. You are the host of today's forum, and we are nearing the end. It's kind of a bittersweet experience in a way, but how has today gone for you so far?
Well, I think it's been phenomenal. The format, the fact that we can rise to the challenge in Corona times, but really still discuss the issues, the types of panels, talking from connectivity to skills to the role of the private sector and all the changes and the innovation that we can all drive, and what sort of the elderly, ik myself, need to do for the younger generation. It's all playing it forward. It's not playing it backward. It's really a shared agenda. We're in this together.
Yeah.
With young people at the center, masters of their own destiny.
Oh.
I was hoping for some audio problems with your connection there. I didn't get them. Thank you very much for that, Minister. In your roles, Dennis and Noah, what do you see as? How do you reflect on the day as it's gone today?
Yeah. So what I do as a role, as my role as a chair of the organization that represents the vocational students here in the Netherlands, is mostly care about what affects them and what can affect them in the future. One of the things we see is that a lot of students, current vocational students, are unsure of their future. They don't have a perspective, they're unclear of what's coming and what's happening to them right now. So I think one of the things we can help them with is show them the perspective they have and the options they have. For example, like going to the job market, or maybe find another study that suits you better, or suits you within the higher education level.
Yeah, clear. And you, Dennis, what were the sorts of issues that popped up in the EU-AU Youth Hub?
Yes. So the sorts of issues that popped up were how can we engage the youth in conversations that actually affect them? And the project that we discussed in depth was about, we have these political promises that are made to the people, and the people comprise about 50-60% youth. So in effect, you're making political promises to the youth. So how can the youth hold you accountable as a politician, for example? And we've created a mechanism using digital tools and technology for how these voices can be heard, by basically polling the youth at ground level and getting their feedback, and then having that visible to the leaders so that they're able to be held accountable.
And are there particular EU-AU partnership initiatives that are really working?
Oh yes, this project is one of them, but it's only one of 7 projects that we're working on in 6 different areas. We have governance, we have environment, we have business, pretty much all-encompassing areas. So we have pilot projects that should be over in 3 years that will enable us to actually show that our ideas are able to get traction on the ground and deliver results.
How important is that? Oh, sorry to jump in.
No, it's okay. No,
Yes.
it's okay. I was just curious also maybe to hear from you both. You both work for young people and also with youth organizations. How do you think we can further strengthen the connection between youth organizations and government? So after today, how can we keep the conversations ongoing? What would be the best way for that?
Yeah, I think it's also our role as, my role as a youth representation to really be connected with our own group that's among us. So for me, that's the vocational students in the Netherlands. Over 500,000 students here in the Netherlands study at a vocational study. And the people we speak with as JOP and as our organizations are the Ministry of Education, for example, the Minister of Education. And it's also our role to really be connected with our own group of students. We take polls and surveys each year. And every 2 years we take, a nationwide survey which has been taken among 260,000 students on vocational schools here in the Netherlands. And that's really our way to divide and to attract all the subjects that affect them and that they want to be played on the table with.
Yeah.
And just briefly, is there a particular issue that affects vocational students that that sets them apart from other students?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the core fundamentals of vocational education is finding an internship and being able to to have work experience before you enter the job market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here in the Netherlands, the current shortage of internship availabilities is over 20,000 places. I don't even know what that is internationally, but I also don't want to know because it's probably really bad. So one of our objectives as an organization, together with the Ministry